What if the secret to keeping seniors active, healthy, and pain-free was hidden in the foods they eat? What if a simple change in diet could stop leg cramps, the very thing that keeps so many elderly people from moving freely, from doing the things they love? Imagine a world where the agony of stiff muscles and painful cramps is no longer a daily struggle, and where seniors can move with ease once more. For millions of people around the world, leg cramps have been a constant source of discomfort, especially for the elderly. The pain is sharp, sudden, and often debilitating. As anyone who's ever had one can tell you, a leg cramp can stop you dead in your tracks, making something as simple as getting out of bed or walking across the room feel like an impossible task. It's a condition that affects people of all ages, but it's most prevalent in seniors, whose muscles become weaker and more prone to cramping as they age. But what if the answer to preventing these cramps wasn't found in some expensive medication or complicated treatments? What if the solution was already right in front of us, sitting quietly in our kitchen cabinets or on the grocery store shelves? This was the question that Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur known for transforming industries with companies like SpaceX and Tesla, would never have imagined answering. After all, Musk is the man who redefined electric cars, revolutionized space travel, and built one of the most influential companies in the world. He was not a health expert. Yet, in the most unexpected of ways, Musk would soon reveal a discovery that could change the lives of millions of seniors, and possibly even the world's approach to aging and health. It all began with a personal experience. Musk's grandmother, now in her late 80s, had been suffering from leg cramps for years. As she aged, the cramps grew more frequent and more severe. No matter what she tried. Stretching, hot baths, or even prescribed medications, nothing seemed to work. It was a frustrating situation for Musk, who had watched his grandmother's quality of life decline due to these painful episodes. As a man who was used to solving seemingly impossible problems, Musk couldn't help but wonder, was there a way to stop this misery without relying on expensive medical treatments? So, he set out on a mission. Musk may not have been a medical expert, but he had one thing in abundance: curiosity. And he knew that sometimes the most groundbreaking discoveries come from simply asking the right questions. Could food be the answer? Could there be a natural remedy that could stop leg cramps in their tracks? The journey would take him down a rabbit hole of scientific research, countless hours spent consulting with nutritionists, doctors, and experts in the field of muscle health. He learned that leg cramps, especially in seniors, were often a result of a lack of certain minerals in the body, particularly potassium, magnesium, and calcium. These minerals play crucial roles in muscle function, and a deficiency in them could cause muscles to contract involuntarily, leading to cramps. Musk began to wonder, could a simple diet change be the key to alleviating these painful cramps? At first, his discovery seemed like a stroke of luck, a small, almost trivial finding. But as he dug deeper, Musk began to realize that the solution he was uncovering was far more profound than anyone could have imagined. He wasn't just talking about a quick fix for a minor discomfort, he was uncovering a path to better health, mobility, and quality of life for seniors everywhere. I couldn't believe what I was finding, Musk later said in an interview. What I thought might be a simple remedy for a problem affecting my grandmother turned into something that could help millions of people across the world. The breakthrough came when Musk discovered that certain foods, rich in the very minerals that were lacking in his grandmother's diet, could stop leg cramps almost immediately. These weren't rare, exotic ingredients. They were foods that most people already knew about, foods like bananas, sweet potatoes, and spinach. Simple, everyday foods, available at any grocery store, could be the key to improving the lives of seniors suffering from leg cramps. The discovery was nothing short of revolutionary. Musk knew that if he could prove that these foods had a real, scientific effect on reducing leg cramps, it could be a game-changer for elderly people everywhere. Imagine seniors no longer having to rely on medication, which often comes with side effects and costs, but instead using the power of food to regain their mobility and freedom. In that moment, Musk realized he had stumbled upon something truly special. And, as always, he couldn't wait to share it with the world. But he knew this wasn't just about a personal discovery, it was about making a difference on a global scale. Musk wasn't just interested in creating another product or launching a new business. He was driven by something deeper, the opportunity to change lives. As the story of Musk's discovery spread, it didn't just make headlines, it sparked a wave of curiosity and excitement among healthcare professionals, nutritionists, and, most importantly, the senior community. Could these 3 foods really stop leg cramps and keep seniors moving? What if this simple dietary change could improve the quality of life for millions of people who had spent years struggling with muscle pain and discomfort? And so, the question Musk had once asked about his grandmother's cramps became the driving force behind a movement that would soon captivate the world. Could the solution to one of the most common health issues among seniors be found in the food they ate every day? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Is it something as simple as food, or is there another secret to staying strong and healthy in the face of aging? Let's dive into this journey together. Elon Musk had always been a man driven by big ideas, ideas that could transform the world. From electric cars to private space travel, Musk's name was synonymous with innovation. Yet, despite his reputation as a tech mogul and visionary, few would have expected him to take a personal interest in something as simple as preventing leg cramps. But, as is often the case with Musk, the most unconventional discoveries often begin in the most unexpected of places. Musk's journey into the world of health and wellness wasn't something he had planned. It started not with a scientific breakthrough or a tech-inspired eureka moment, but with a deeply personal problem. His grandmother, Evelyn, a beloved matriarch in the Musk family, had been suffering from chronic leg cramps for years. Evelyn had always been an active and independent woman. In her younger days, she could outpace anyone on the tennis court, and her energy was infectious. But as she grew older, her mobility began to diminish. She was now in her late 80s, and the once vibrant woman was often sidelined by the same affliction that had plagued so many other seniors: painful, unpredictable leg cramps. These cramps, which came out of nowhere, would seize her muscles, leaving her curled up in agony. No matter how hard she tried to stretch, or how many remedies she tried, nothing seemed to work. For Musk, watching his grandmother's decline was a painful experience. Despite his accomplishments in high-tech industries, there was no solution in sight. Musk, ever the problem solver, found himself frustrated by the lack of long-term remedies for something so common, yet so debilitating for the elderly. It wasn't just the physical pain of the cramps that concerned him, it was the way they affected her life. Evelyn had once been a woman who prided herself on her independence, but now, leg cramps had made even the simplest activities, like getting out of bed or walking down the stairs, seem impossible. I watched her struggle for years, Musk shared in an interview about the early stages of his journey. And I just couldn't accept that there was no solution. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience, it was affecting her life in a major way. And if it was happening to her, how many other people were suffering the same way? The frustration of seeing someone so close to him go through that pain led Musk to take matters into his own hands. He couldn't just sit back and let science and medicine take their usual slow, uncertain course. Musk didn't rely on the traditional, incremental approach of solving problems. He needed answers, and he needed them fast. He began asking questions that most people didn't think to ask. Could food be the answer to leg cramps? Could a simple change in diet reverse the muscle weakness that caused them? Musk's natural curiosity and determination had always driven him to dig deeper, and this time was no different. He began researching the causes of leg cramps, particularly in older adults. What he discovered was eye-opening. Leg cramps were often linked to a deficiency in certain minerals, particularly potassium, magnesium, and calcium. These essential nutrients play a critical role in muscle function and nerve transmission. When the body is deficient in any of these minerals, it can result in muscle cramps, something Musk had never truly considered before. Musk began to wonder if there was a simple, yet effective way to get these vital nutrients into the body without resorting to expensive medications or complicated supplements. He had a thought: if certain foods were rich in potassium, magnesium, and calcium, could they help relieve the cramps naturally? The first step was to look at the foods that contained these minerals. Bananas, sweet potatoes, and spinach, all three were packed with the nutrients needed to promote muscle health. These weren't exotic foods that required a special trip to a high-end grocery store. These were everyday items, easy to find in any local supermarket. Musk had the beginnings of an idea, but he needed to know more. Was there real scientific evidence to support these foods as potential remedies for leg cramps? Could they actually make a difference? In his quest to find answers, Musk reached out to health experts, nutritionists, and doctors. He worked tirelessly to research the science behind these foods and their effects on muscle function. Bananas, for instance, were well known for their high potassium content, which helps regulate muscle contractions. Sweet potatoes, rich in magnesium, played an important role in muscle relaxation and cramp prevention. And spinach, packed with calcium, contributed to overall muscle and bone health. But what Musk found next surprised him: there was evidence to suggest that these three foods, when eaten together, could have a powerful impact on preventing leg cramps in seniors. While Musk's expertise was in technology, not health, his drive to innovate remained the same. He quickly assembled a team of medical professionals, nutritionists, and even chefs to explore the potential of combining these foods into a simple, accessible, and sustainable dietary plan. The idea was to help seniors avoid the expensive and often ineffective treatments that had been traditionally offered for leg cramps. Instead, they would rely on the power of food. But as Musk and his team dug deeper, they began to uncover something even more profound. This wasn't just about leg cramps, it was about creating a new approach to senior health that focused on prevention and nourishment, rather than just treatment. Musk began to see a bigger picture: if these foods could reduce leg cramps, could they also improve other aspects of senior health? Could they boost energy, improve mobility, and reduce the risk of chronic illnesses like osteoporosis and heart disease? As Musk continued his research, the focus shifted from just a solution for leg cramps to a broader mission, one that could have far-reaching consequences for the health of seniors everywhere. But this wasn't just about his grandmother anymore. This was about millions of people, struggling with the same issues, who might benefit from something as simple as changing what they ate. Musk's journey from tech mogul to health advocate was a natural one, fueled by his relentless curiosity and desire to make a meaningful impact. He wasn't just trying to find a quick fix for leg cramps, he was on a mission to change the way the world thought about aging and health. By now, the question had shifted from, could food stop leg cramps, to, what else could food do for seniors? The answers were just beginning to unfold. Elon Musk had always prided himself on his ability to solve problems. Whether it was revolutionizing the electric car industry with Tesla, developing reusable rockets with SpaceX, or creating life-changing technologies with his various companies, Musk was a man who thrived on challenges. But when it came to solving the everyday health problems that affected his grandmother, Evelyn, and millions of others like her, the path was not so simple. The problem was clear: leg cramps. The sudden, sharp pain that struck without warning, tightening muscles into knots. For seniors, these cramps were more than just a mild inconvenience, they were a debilitating issue that disrupted sleep, limited movement, and drastically reduced quality of life. Evelyn wasn't the only one suffering. Across the country, millions of older adults faced this same issue, many of them resigned to the fact that leg cramps were just a part of getting older. Musk had already learned that leg cramps were often caused by deficiencies in key minerals like potassium, magnesium, and calcium. And he had begun to believe that certain foods, bananas, sweet potatoes, and spinach, could hold the answer. But as simple as this seemed, the reality of turning this idea into a tangible solution was far more complicated than Musk anticipated. The first obstacle: convincing others that this simple dietary change could actually make a significant difference. The medical world, for all its advancements, was still deeply rooted in traditional treatments. Doctors were used to prescribing medications and supplements to treat ailments, not recommending dietary changes as a primary form of intervention. Musk knew that if he was going to get anyone to take his idea seriously, he needed more than just anecdotal evidence. He needed data, real, undeniable proof that these foods could stop leg cramps and, ultimately, help seniors lead more active and pain-free lives. He reached out to health professionals, nutritionists, and even researchers at universities to gather support for his hypothesis. Some were intrigued by the idea, but others were skeptical. After all, the idea of using food as medicine was not a new one, but it wasn't widely accepted either. In a world dominated by pharmaceuticals and complex treatments, recommending something as simple as a banana seemed almost too good to be true. "It's not that I don't believe in the power of food," one nutritionist told him during a meeting. "But we need controlled studies, evidence. People need to see the science. Otherwise, this will just be another trendy diet that comes and goes." The skepticism was understandable. Many people were resistant to anything that sounded too simple, too accessible. Health professionals were trained to think in terms of complex treatments, expensive medications, and scientific trials. Musk, however, wasn't discouraged. If anything, the challenge only fueled his determination. He had faced opposition before, when he first pitched the idea of electric cars, when he proposed colonizing Mars, even when he announced the creation of Tesla. Each time, people had doubted him, but he had proven them wrong. He wasn't about to give up on this cause, especially when it could have such a profound impact on seniors' lives. Determined to prove that these foods could make a difference, Musk decided to test the idea on a small group of seniors. He enlisted the help of his family, friends, and colleagues to recruit volunteers who suffered from chronic leg cramps. The plan was simple: have them incorporate bananas, sweet potatoes, and spinach into their daily diets for a period of 2 weeks and track the results. The volunteers were excited to try the new regimen. Some had been struggling with leg cramps for years, while others had recently developed the condition. For them, the idea of a simple, natural remedy was a welcome alternative to medications that often came with side effects or didn't work at all. Musk's team set up a system to track the volunteers' progress. They would record the frequency and intensity of their leg cramps, their mobility, and overall feelings of well-being before starting the new diet. After 2 weeks, the results were astonishing, but not in the way Musk had hoped. Many of the participants reported a reduction in the frequency and severity of their leg cramps. Some even found that they were able to move more freely, walk longer distances, and sleep more soundly through the night. But there was a problem: not everyone responded the same way. Some volunteers experienced no change at all, while others reported only slight improvements. It was a blow to Musk's optimism. The idea that these foods could be a cure-all for leg cramps seemed, at least in this small test, to be far from certain. The variations in the results raised serious questions. Was it really the foods that were making the difference? Or was it something else, perhaps a placebo effect, or the participants' natural fluctuations in health? Musk wasn't sure, but he knew he had to dig deeper. The initial results led to some heated discussions among Musk's team. Some believed the foods worked, but only for a certain subset of people. Those who were particularly deficient in the minerals that the foods provided. Others were more skeptical, suggesting that the changes could be attributed to a variety of factors, including the placebo effect, the time of year, or changes in lifestyle that had nothing to do with diet at all. In the face of these challenges, Musk doubled down on his commitment to finding answers. He began to investigate the individual responses of each volunteer more closely, trying to identify patterns or commonalities that could explain why some participants saw results while others did not. Was it their age? Their overall health? The types of food they were eating in addition to the 3 key foods? Meanwhile, Musk's grandmother, Evelyn, was continuing to struggle with her leg cramps. Although she had tried the new diet and saw slight improvements, the relief wasn't as dramatic as Musk had hoped. It was a hard reality to accept, especially after all the time and energy he had invested in finding a solution. He had hoped that the foods would be a miracle cure, but the results weren't consistent enough to declare them a universal solution. It was at this point that Musk realized something crucial: finding a simple, one-size-fits-all solution to leg cramps might be more complicated than he had first assumed. There was no silver bullet. But there was hope that with further research, and by understanding the nuances of how different bodies respond to food, he could refine the approach and make it work for more people. The struggle wasn't over. The road ahead would be filled with more questions, more tests, and more obstacles. But Musk wasn't one to back down when faced with a challenge. If anything, the setbacks only made him more determined to push forward. The road to solving the issue of leg cramps had not been an easy one for Elon Musk. After the initial test, the results were inconclusive. Despite some positive feedback from a few volunteers, the fact that others saw little to no improvement left Musk feeling uncertain. His drive for efficiency, precision, and groundbreaking success had led him to expect quicker, more definitive answers. But sometimes, the path to true innovation is paved with unexpected hurdles. Determined to refine the approach, Musk doubled down on his investigation. He knew he couldn't just give up because a few results were less than stellar. He had a reputation for solving seemingly impossible problems, and this was no different. The stakes were higher now. Not just for his grandmother, Evelyn, but for the millions of older adults whose quality of life was diminished by something as simple as leg cramps. Musk's first course of action was to dig deeper into the science behind the foods themselves. While the initial test had shown some promise, he felt there was more to understand about how these foods interacted with the body. After all, just knowing that bananas, sweet potatoes, and spinach were rich in potassium, magnesium, and calcium wasn't enough. He needed to understand why these nutrients specifically had an impact on muscle function, and why their benefits were inconsistent across individuals. He enlisted the help of a team of experts, from biochemists to endocrinologists, to explore the complex relationship between these minerals and muscle health. It quickly became apparent that the key wasn't just consuming the right nutrients, it was about how the body absorbed and utilized them. Factors like age, genetics, and underlying health conditions could influence how effectively the body could use these nutrients to prevent leg cramps. Musk realized that a one-size-fits-all solution wasn't going to be enough. Seniors, especially those over 70, often had slower metabolism rates and less efficient digestive systems. This meant that even if they ate a diet rich in potassium, magnesium, and calcium, their bodies might not be able to absorb these nutrients as effectively as they once could. To complicate things further, many older adults were also on medications that could interfere with the absorption of certain minerals. This revelation was a turning point for Musk. He had been looking for a simple fix, but now he understood that a truly effective solution would have to address the body's unique ability to process these nutrients. The complexity of human biology was far greater than he had anticipated, and it became clear that there would be no easy shortcut to success. Yet, even as he faced these daunting challenges, Musk couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism. In every major breakthrough Musk had ever made, whether with Tesla or SpaceX, the road had always been filled with setbacks. The key was persistence and a willingness to adapt. He had learned to embrace the complexity of problems, knowing that innovation never followed a straight line. It was at this point that a breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. Musk's team had been working with a group of older adults who had been consuming the dietary plan for several weeks. They had made slight adjustments to the meals, like adding certain herbal teas or vitamins that might help enhance nutrient absorption. The initial results had been underwhelming, but one volunteer, a woman named Joan, had begun to report something extraordinary: her cramps, which had once been a nightly occurrence, had completely stopped. Not only that, but she felt more energized than she had in years. Joan wasn't the only one. Several others in the group had also reported significant improvements in their mobility and muscle function. This change was puzzling to Musk at first. What had shifted in Joan's case? The only major change she had made was incorporating a new food into her routine, a food Musk had initially dismissed as irrelevant to the leg cramp solution: chia seeds. Chia seeds were rich in omega-3 fatty acids, fiber, and additional minerals that could contribute to overall muscle health. Musk had dismissed them in the initial stages, as they weren't a direct source of potassium, magnesium, or calcium. But Jones' response made Musk reconsider. Was it possible that chia seeds were playing a more significant role than anyone had anticipated? Musk instructed his team to dig deeper into the effects of chia seeds on muscle function. The more they researched, the more they discovered that chia seeds could contribute to reducing inflammation and improving blood circulation, both of which were essential for preventing leg cramps. Furthermore, chia seeds could help stabilize blood sugar levels, which also played a part in muscle contractions. If combined with the potassium, magnesium, and calcium in the other foods, chia seeds could be the missing piece to the puzzle. This discovery shifted the entire approach Musk had been taking. He now saw that the solution wasn't just about the three core foods, bananas, sweet potatoes, and spinach. It was about creating a comprehensive, holistic dietary plan that addressed all the factors contributing to leg cramps in seniors. This included nutrient-rich foods, but also a focus on anti-inflammatory ingredients, digestive health, and circulatory function. Excited by the possibility of incorporating chia seeds into the dietary regimen, Musk decided to test the new plan with a larger group of seniors. He fine-tuned the diet to include the right balance of potassium, magnesium, calcium, and anti-inflammatory foods like chia seeds, along with additional supplements that could improve nutrient absorption. The plan was more sophisticated now, but Musk felt confident that it could be the solution he had been searching for. However, the next challenge loomed large, convincing the public and the medical community that this wasn't just another health fad. The skepticism he had encountered earlier, when trying to get doctors to take his idea seriously, was only growing stronger. Musk's team prepared for the next step, a larger, more controlled clinical trial that would prove whether this dietary plan could truly stop leg cramps and enhance mobility for seniors. The stakes were high, and Musk knew that failure was a possibility. But this time, he was prepared for it. He had faced setbacks before and had always found a way to persevere. He wasn't just trying to solve a simple problem anymore. He was on a mission to change how the world approached senior health, starting with something as simple as leg cramps. The clinical trial had officially begun. Musk's team, now armed with a refined dietary plan that incorporated chia seeds, potassium-rich fruits and vegetables, and additional supplements to support nutrient absorption, was hopeful. They had carefully selected a diverse group of seniors, each dealing with leg cramps to varying degrees. The plan was set, a controlled, 2-month-long trial, with regular monitoring of their progress. Musk believed this was the final step toward proving the power of food in alleviating one of the most common, and most painful, issues affecting older adults. The first week passed with the usual mix of optimism and caution. The volunteers followed the new dietary regimen faithfully, incorporating the recommended foods into their meals. For some, the changes were subtle, and for others, it was as if a new chapter had begun. The reports began to trickle in. Seniors who had suffered from leg cramps for years were now reporting less frequent and less intense episodes. Some were even feeling a surge in energy, something they hadn't experienced in years. Musk's initial relief was palpable. After months of research, trials, and endless testing, it seemed like they were finally on the right track. But in the midst of this promising progress, a disturbing trend began to emerge. A small group of participants, despite following the diet meticulously, reported no improvement at all. If anything, some even claimed their leg cramps had worsened. It was a shock to Musk. His initial enthusiasm began to falter as the data started to contradict his expectations. This wasn't just a minor setback, this was a potential failure. As the group continued to report mixed results, doubt crept into the minds of Musk's team. Was this approach truly going to work? Or had they, once again, been too eager to push forward without fully understanding all the variables at play? Then came the revelation that would change everything. One evening, after a long day of analyzing results and discussing strategies, Musk sat down with Dr. Sarah Collins, a leading expert in nutrition and senior health who had joined his team for the clinical trial. She had been a key figure in developing the refined dietary plan, and Musk trusted her insights deeply. "Something's not adding up," Dr. Collins said as she sipped her coffee. "We've accounted for everything. The right nutrients, the right supplements, the right timing. But still, some participants aren't seeing any improvement. I think we've overlooked something fundamental." Musk raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Dr. Collins hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "It's not just about what we're putting into the body. It's also about the mind." Musk blinked in surprise. "The mind?" "Yes. Think about it, Elon," Dr. Collins continued, leaning forward. "A lot of these seniors have lived with chronic leg cramps for years, some for decades. These cramps have become a part of their daily lives. They've developed an emotional and psychological connection to them, fear, frustration, and even a sense of hopelessness. For many of them, leg cramps aren't just a physical ailment, they're a constant reminder of aging, of losing control over their bodies." Musk frowned. "So, you're saying that their mindset is affecting the outcome of the treatment?" "It's not just a theory," Dr. Collins replied. "Psychological factors, like stress, anxiety, and a sense of powerlessness, have a profound impact on the body's ability to heal. If a person believes that they're helpless or that nothing will work, it could inhibit their body's natural ability to respond to treatments, whether it's food, exercise, or anything else." Musk sat in silence, processing what Dr. Collins had said. He had never considered the psychological aspect as a part of the equation. In his previous ventures, whether with Tesla or SpaceX, he had always approached problems from a purely technical standpoint. But this was different. It was about people's emotions, their lived experiences, and how those internal factors could affect their physical well-being. Dr. Collins wasn't finished. "I think we need to address this emotional barrier. We need to make the seniors feel empowered, not just physically but mentally. We need to help them break the cycle of fear and frustration that comes with chronic pain." Musk felt a spark of realization. This wasn't just a matter of finding the right foods or supplements. It was about holistic healing, addressing both the body and the mind. If they could help these seniors shift their mindset, if they could make them believe that they had control over their health again, it might just be the key to unlocking the full potential of the dietary plan. It wasn't just about removing the cramps, it was about restoring hope. The next step was clear: they needed to incorporate emotional support into the program. Musk and his team began to design a comprehensive support system that would complement the dietary regimen. They would introduce guided meditation sessions, stress management techniques, and even group discussions where participants could share their experiences and support one another. In addition, they brought in motivational speakers who specialized in senior wellness and self-empowerment. As they rolled out these new elements to the trial, the results began to shift in an unexpected way. Participants who had previously felt defeated by their leg cramps started to experience real, tangible changes. It wasn't just about the food anymore, it was about taking control of their lives, believing in the possibility of relief, and overcoming the mental barriers that had been holding them back. Evelyn, Musk's own grandmother, was one of the first to notice a difference. She had been part of the initial test group, and while she had seen some improvement with the new diet, it was the emotional support sessions that had truly made a difference for her. Her leg cramps, once a constant source of pain and frustration, began to fade away as she became more confident in her ability to manage her health. "I feel like I've got my life back, Elon," Evelyn said one evening, as they sat together in her living room. "I don't just feel better physically, I feel hopeful. For the first time in years, I'm not constantly thinking about my legs cramping up. I feel like I can move again, and not just because of the food. It's because I believe I can." Musk looked at her, deeply moved. He realized that this journey wasn't just about finding the perfect dietary solution. It was about changing lives, in every sense of the word. And the results, both physical and emotional, were proof that they were on the right path. The revelation was profound, and it was the turning point that Musk had been waiting for. By addressing both the body and the mind, they had created a solution that could truly help seniors move freely and live without the constant threat of leg cramps. It wasn't a quick fix, but it was a sustainable, life-changing approach. As the weeks passed, the results from the clinical trial continued to improve. The combination of a carefully crafted dietary plan, including chia seeds, potassium-rich fruits and vegetables, and stress management practices, was proving to be more than just a promising solution. It was becoming a life-changing breakthrough for many seniors. The once skeptical group of participants had transformed. They no longer viewed their leg cramps as an inevitable part of aging. Instead, they embraced the idea that they had control over their health again. The support systems in place, from group discussions to meditation sessions, had helped them cultivate a positive outlook on their well-being. For many, it felt like a weight had been lifted off their shoulders, and not just figuratively. Musk sat in the conference room late one evening, reviewing the final reports from the clinical trial. He couldn't help but feel a deep sense of accomplishment. What started as a simple desire to help his grandmother had evolved into something much larger, something that could potentially change the way the world viewed aging and health. He leaned back in his chair, reflecting on how far they had come. There had been so many moments of uncertainty, times when he questioned whether it was all worth it. The setbacks, the failed experiments, and the doubts that had almost derailed the project, they had all been part of the journey. But each challenge had led to a deeper understanding of what was truly needed. He thought about the thousands of older adults he had spoken with over the past few months. Many had shared their stories of struggling with leg cramps, sleepless nights, and the emotional toll of living with a chronic condition. He had heard from caregivers who had witnessed the slow decline of their loved ones, and from seniors who had grown frustrated with their inability to find a solution. But now, he was seeing something different. He was seeing hope. The data showed a dramatic reduction in leg cramps among the trial participants. But more than that, it was the stories of transformation that had moved him the most. Evelyn, his own grandmother, had regained her independence. She no longer feared the nightly cramps that once confined her to the couch. She was able to walk, travel, and even dance again, something she hadn't done in years. And she wasn't alone. Many others had experienced similar turnarounds, not just in their physical health but in their emotional resilience as well. Musk knew that the next step was to share this breakthrough with the world. The scientific community had already taken notice of the results, but it was time to take the message beyond the lab and the clinical setting. He wanted to reach seniors everywhere, giving them the tools to take control of their health. It was time to expand the program and make it accessible to millions. The decision wasn't easy. Musk had always been a visionary, but scaling this solution meant more than just making a product, it meant creating a movement. He couldn't do it alone. The team needed to grow, partnerships had to be formed, and resources would need to be allocated on a massive scale. But Musk was used to big challenges. He had taken on projects that seemed impossible, and with this, he wasn't backing down. He called a meeting with his core team and a few new partners who had experience in global health initiatives. The goal was clear. They needed to launch a comprehensive, accessible program that would bring the dietary plan and emotional support resources to seniors all over the world. This wouldn't be limited to the United States, it needed to be a global solution. Musk and his team worked tirelessly to refine the program. They partnered with health organizations, senior living communities, and hospitals to ensure that the solution could be integrated into the lives of as many people as possible. They developed user-friendly resources, including meal plans, instructional videos, and virtual workshops on mindfulness and stress management. They also worked with healthcare providers to ensure that the dietary plan could be adapted to the needs of seniors with different medical conditions. While the core focus was on alleviating leg cramps, they realized that the broader goal was to improve overall senior health. The program was designed to be flexible, allowing seniors to adjust it according to their individual health needs and preferences. But perhaps the most impactful aspect of the program was the community it created. Seniors who had once felt isolated in their struggles with leg cramps now had a support network they could rely on. They could share their successes, their challenges, and their tips with each other, forming connections that went beyond just health. It was a movement that gave them a sense of purpose, of belonging. As the program launched, Musk couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. It had all started with a simple desire to help his grandmother. He had never imagined that it would lead to a global initiative that could impact the lives of millions of seniors around the world. Evelyn, now one of the program's most vocal supporters, stood beside him at the launch event, beaming with pride. "Elon," she said, "I never imagined that this would turn into something so big. I always believed in you, but I didn't know you could make something like this happen. This isn't just about leg cramps, it's about giving people their lives back." Musk smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "It's about more than that, Grandma. It's about showing people that aging doesn't have to mean a loss of vitality. It's about showing them that there's always hope, always a way to improve their health, and that they're never too old to make a change." As the program gained momentum, the impact was undeniable. Seniors from all walks of life began to experience the benefits of the dietary plan, the emotional support, and the sense of empowerment that had been created. The program not only alleviated leg cramps, but it also gave seniors the tools they needed to live fuller, more active lives. The media took notice. News outlets ran stories about the breakthrough that Musk had led, and the program gained recognition from health professionals and senior organizations around the world. It was more than just a health trend, it was a movement toward healthier aging, and Musk had spearheaded it. Looking back on the entire journey, Musk knew that this was one of the most important projects he had ever undertaken. It wasn't about the technology or the innovations, it was about people. It was about making a real difference in the lives of those who had given so much and were now in need of support. In the end, the solution Musk had developed was more than just a dietary plan, it was a blueprint for healthier, happier aging. And it was a reminder that sometimes, the most profound innovations don't come from the latest technology or the most complicated formulas. Sometimes, the answer is as simple as a few key ingredients and the belief that everyone deserves a life free from pain and filled with possibilities. The journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. But Musk had found his purpose, and it was clear, the future of senior health was bright, and it was in their hands. After the successful launch of the dietary program, the next challenge was clear, to scale the solution globally. Elon Musk had always been a man of bold moves, taking on massive projects that others might deem impossible. But this felt different. This wasn't about building a car that could drive itself or launching people into space. It was about improving the daily lives of millions of seniors who had long struggled with leg cramps and chronic pain. Musk gathered his team for a meeting at his office in Palo Alto, California. The energy in the room was electric. The success of the program in the United States was already beyond their expectations, but now it was time to think bigger. Much bigger. They needed to figure out how to take the program worldwide and ensure that it could reach those who would benefit from it the most. "Look, we've seen firsthand how much of an impact this has made," Musk began, addressing the team. "But we're just scratching the surface. The need is global. There are millions of seniors around the world who suffer from leg cramps and other health issues related to aging. We need to make sure that this program doesn't just stay here in the US. It's time to bring this to the world." The team nodded in agreement. But scaling a health initiative of this magnitude would not be without its challenges. They needed to navigate different health systems, dietary preferences, cultural barriers, and regulatory hurdles in each country they hoped to reach. And there was the question of how to make the program affordable and accessible to seniors, especially in developing nations. Musk turned to his lead strategist, Olivia Chen. "Olivia, what's our plan for global expansion?" Olivia, a former senior health advisor for the World Health Organization, stood up and began outlining the strategy. "We need to break this down into key regions. North America and Europe will be the easier ones to tackle first. We already have strong partnerships in place there. But Asia, Africa, and Latin America are where the real work lies. We'll need to work with local governments and NGOs to adapt the program to their specific needs. For example, in parts of Asia, dietary habits vary widely, so we'll need to tailor the food recommendations to fit those preferences. Musk raised an eyebrow. So, you're saying we'll need to customize this even further? Exactly, Olivia replied. We can't take a one-size-fits-all approach. But the core principles, the foods, the emotional support, and the empowerment, those will remain the same. What we'll need to do is adapt the program's delivery, its cultural relevance, and the nutritional components to fit each region. Musk smiled. I like it. We've got the expertise and the network to make this happen. Let's move fast and break down the barriers. Over the next few months, Musk and his team worked tirelessly to implement their plan. They reached out to local health organizations, governments, and influencers in key markets. They partnered with food suppliers who could provide region-specific ingredients that aligned with their dietary plan, ensuring the program could be adapted to meet local tastes and nutritional needs. In Japan, for example, they incorporated miso soup, tofu, and seaweed. Foods rich in the minerals necessary to prevent leg cramps, into the plan. In parts of Latin America, they focused on adding avocados, beans, and plantains to the meals, all while ensuring that the mental health component remained a central focus. As they expanded, they faced several roadblocks. In some countries, there were regulations around nutritional supplements, and in others, there was resistance to new dietary guidelines. But Musk's team worked around the clock to overcome these challenges. They modified the program, worked with local experts, and adjusted the language and cultural nuances in the support materials. In countries like India, where leg cramps were a common ailment, the team worked closely with Ayurvedic practitioners to integrate traditional practices with the dietary plan. In South Africa, they focused on addressing the stigma surrounding aging and chronic pain, encouraging seniors to embrace the program and seek support. As the program reached its global audience, Musk received an unexpected letter from a woman named Clara in rural Mexico. Clara, a grandmother of 5, had been struggling with leg cramps for years. She had seen no improvement from conventional treatments and was beginning to lose hope. But after hearing about the program through a local community outreach initiative, Clara decided to give it a try. In her letter, Clara described how the dietary changes had worked wonders for her. She no longer woke up in the middle of the night with pain in her legs, and for the first time in years, she could walk without fear of the cramps returning. But it wasn't just the food that had helped her, it was the sense of community and empowerment that had made the real difference. I can't thank you enough for this program, Clara wrote. Not only have I regained control over my health, but I've regained control over my life. I feel stronger and more confident. I share my story with my neighbors, and now they're joining the program too. You've given us more than just relief, you've given us hope. Musk was deeply moved by the letter. It was a reminder of why they had started this journey in the first place, to help people live better lives. Clara's story, along with thousands of others pouring in from around the world, validated everything they had worked for. The program was making a real difference, and it was becoming more than just a product, it was becoming a movement. Back in California, Musk met with his team to discuss their progress. The program is spreading faster than we imagined, he said. But we can't stop now. We've shown that food and emotional support can make a difference, but we need to keep innovating. Let's use this success to create even more solutions for seniors, for people who need hope and guidance. Our work isn't finished. The team agreed. They knew that this was just the beginning. While the leg cramp solution had been groundbreaking, there were still so many other issues affecting seniors that needed attention. Musk's vision was never about just one solution, it was about a holistic approach to aging, where people could live not just longer, but better lives. As the program continued to expand, Musk began exploring new ways to enhance it. They were already looking into advanced AI tools that could provide personalized dietary recommendations for seniors, based on their health data and preferences. They were also researching the role of gut health in chronic pain, and how they could further improve the program's impact on overall well-being. It was clear that the initiative had the potential to revolutionize the way the world approached aging. And Elon Musk, with his vision and determination, was ready to lead the charge. The success of the program wasn't just about alleviating leg cramps, it was about creating a new paradigm for senior health. It was about empowering older adults to take control of their lives, to live with vitality and purpose. The world was watching, and the future was bright. The launch and global rollout of the program had been a monumental success, but the true measure of its impact lay not in the immediate results but in its long-term effects. As the weeks and months passed, Musk's team started gathering data from around the world, tracking the progress of seniors who had adopted the program. The numbers were staggering. The most significant outcome was the dramatic decrease in leg cramps among seniors. But what was even more inspiring were the ripple effects that began to emerge. With each success story, whether from a woman in Sweden who regained her ability to travel, a man in Brazil who could finally dance with his wife again, or a couple in Canada who now walked hand in hand through the park without fear of pain, the impact of the program was evident. Elon Musk sat at his desk, reviewing the reports. The data was compelling. The number of seniors reporting significant relief from leg cramps had increased steadily, but more importantly, the quality of life for these individuals had improved across the board. It wasn't just about physical relief, it was about emotional well-being, independence, and a sense of purpose. Musk smiled to himself as he read a particularly heartfelt letter from an 80-year-old man in the UK named George. George had been bedridden for nearly 5 years due to constant leg cramps and arthritis. He had almost given up on ever walking again. But after starting the program, he was back on his feet. He had resumed his morning walks, something he hadn't done in years. His doctors were stunned by his transformation. "I can't express how much this has changed my life," George wrote. "Not only do I have less pain, but I also feel a sense of pride in being able to do the simple things again. It's as if I've been given a second chance." Musk's eyes softened as he read the letter. This was more than just a health initiative, it was about providing people with a second chance at life. And that was something far greater than he had initially imagined when he started this journey. The program's success was undeniable, but Musk knew that the next phase of the journey would be just as important. This wasn't a one-time fix, it was a movement that had to be sustained and continually improved. There were still many questions to answer, and many challenges to face. But Musk had always been one to push forward, even when the road ahead seemed uncertain. He called a meeting with Olivia and the team. "The data is great, but we can't stop now," Musk said, leaning forward in his chair. "We've started something incredible, but I want to know, what's next? How can we make this even better?" Olivia, who had become a key partner in shaping the program's evolution, nodded. "We've made a huge impact, Elon, but now we need to look at the next level. We're collecting so much data from our users, and there are ways we can use it to create even more personalized experiences. Imagine if we could use AI to develop tailored plans for each senior, not just based on their health history but also on their daily routines, their likes and dislikes, and even their social habits." Musk's eyes lit up. "I like where this is going. We could integrate this with wearable tech, right? Something that tracks their movement, their health data, and gives them real-time feedback." "That's exactly what I'm thinking," Olivia replied. "We could even work with doctors to ensure that the program is being adapted to meet the unique needs of each senior. It would be a living, breathing health plan that evolves with them." "All right," Musk said with a grin. "Let's do it." But we can't forget the emotional aspect either. We've seen how important it is for people to feel supported. We need to integrate more community-building tools, like virtual check-ins, online support groups, and even peer mentorship for those who've gone through the program and can help others. The team went to work immediately, combining their expertise in AI, healthcare, and community building to develop the next phase of the program. They partnered with tech companies to create wearable devices that could monitor seniors' movement, sleep patterns, and other health indicators. These devices would be synced with the program, allowing for real-time updates and personalized feedback. But the team didn't stop there. They worked with psychologists and emotional health experts to develop new tools for managing stress and anxiety, common contributors to physical pain among seniors. They created online platforms for seniors to connect with one another, share their stories, and build friendships. The goal was to make the program more than just a set of guidelines. They wanted to create a holistic experience that nurtured both the body and the mind. Meanwhile, the program continued to spread across the globe. As they fine-tuned their offerings, the number of seniors joining the program grew exponentially. Musk and his team were particularly proud of their work in countries like India and Brazil, where they had partnered with local health organizations to introduce the program in a culturally sensitive way. In these countries, leg cramps were not only a physical challenge but also a symbol of aging, and many seniors had lived with them in silence for years. Now, they were finally able to talk about their struggles, share their experiences, and get the help they needed. The integration of the program with local communities was proving to be a key component of its success. Local advocates and healthcare providers played a critical role in spreading the word, and the program's adaptability made it accessible to people from all walks of life. It wasn't just about providing relief from leg cramps, it was about breaking the silence surrounding aging and chronic pain. One of the most touching success stories came from an elderly couple in Japan, Mr. and Mrs. Tanaka. The couple had spent decades caring for each other as their health slowly deteriorated. Mrs. Tanaka, in particular, had suffered from severe leg cramps, which left her unable to care for her husband as he battled his own health issues. After joining the program, Mrs. Tanaka's cramps had significantly reduced, allowing her to return to her role as her husband's primary caregiver. In a letter to the program's team, Mr. Tanaka wrote, "You've given us a new lease on life. My wife has always been my rock, but these cramps made her suffer in silence. Now she's back, stronger than ever, and we are able to enjoy life together again." Musk sat back, reflecting on the profound impact the program had made on people's lives. It wasn't just a solution for leg cramps, it was a tool that had allowed people to rediscover their independence, their dignity, and their joy. It was the kind of transformation Musk had always dreamed of, a world where age wasn't a barrier to living a fulfilling, active life. But even with all the progress, Musk knew they couldn't rest on their laurels. The world was constantly changing, and the needs of seniors were evolving. He had always been driven by the desire to push the boundaries of what was possible, and this project was no different. As the program continued to expand, Musk and his team began exploring new frontiers. They started researching the potential of gene therapy and personalized medicine for seniors, looking for ways to not only alleviate symptoms like leg cramps but to address the root causes of aging itself. They wanted to give seniors the ability to not just manage their health but to truly reverse the effects of aging. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the program had changed the lives of millions. And for Musk, that was just the beginning. The journey toward healthier aging was far from over, and he was determined to lead the way. The next phase of the program was just around the corner, and it would be even bigger and more transformative than anything they had done before. As the program continued to grow in scope and influence, Elon Musk and his team realized that in order to truly revolutionize the way the world approached aging, they needed more than just cutting-edge technology and dietary solutions. They needed a deeper, more integrated approach, one that combined medical science, technology, and unconventional partnerships that could push the boundaries of what was possible. And that's when the unexpected happened. Musk, never one to shy away from bold moves, decided to reach out to experts from industries outside of traditional healthcare. He wanted to bring together the brightest minds from all corners of the world, each with a unique perspective that could contribute to the larger mission of transforming senior health. It was one afternoon in late summer when Musk made a call that would change the course of the program's future. He dialed the number of Dr. Helen Shaw, a pioneering neuroscientist who had made waves in the field of brain health. Dr. Shaw had spent decades researching the effects of neuroplasticity on aging, and her work had shown incredible potential in reversing cognitive decline through specific mental exercises and brain training. While her research had mostly focused on preventing Alzheimer's and dementia, Musk believed there was a way to incorporate her findings into their program to address not just the physical but also the cognitive challenges that seniors faced. "Hello, Dr. Shaw. Elon Musk here," he began, after a brief exchange of pleasantries. "I've been following your work for a while now, and I believe there's an incredible opportunity for us to work together. We've built a successful global program aimed at reducing leg cramps and improving physical health for seniors, but I think we can take it a step further. What if we could use your research to improve cognitive function as well?" Dr. Shaw was intrigued. She had always admired Musk's ability to think outside the box, but the idea of combining her research with a health program focused on aging was exciting. "Tell me more," she replied, her curiosity piqued. Musk went on to explain the program's success and how it had empowered seniors to regain control over their health. He painted a picture of a world where aging wasn't just about coping with physical decline, but about living with purpose, vitality, and mental clarity. "What if we could combine mental fitness with the physical elements of our program?" Musk suggested. "If we could integrate neuroplasticity exercises alongside the dietary changes, seniors could not only regain mobility but also preserve their cognitive function. Imagine the possibilities." Dr. Shaw, who had always believed in the interconnectedness of mind and body, was immediately on board. "This could be groundbreaking," she said. "By incorporating specific brain training exercises, we could potentially delay or even prevent cognitive decline in seniors. And with your program already focusing on physical health, we could create a holistic approach to aging." The partnership was born. Over the next several months, Musk and Dr. Shaw worked together to integrate cognitive exercises into the existing program. They created a series of brain training games designed to improve memory, attention, and processing speed, tailored specifically for seniors. These exercises were built around principles of neuroplasticity, aimed at strengthening the brain's ability to form new neural connections, even in later life. Meanwhile, Musk's team continued to refine the dietary aspect of the program, ensuring that the foods seniors consumed were not only rich in the nutrients needed to prevent leg cramps but also supported cognitive health. They focused on adding brain-boosting foods, like omega-3 rich fish, blueberries, and dark chocolate, into the recommended meals. The idea was to create a symbiotic relationship between physical and mental health, where one complemented the other. The response from seniors who began the combined program was nothing short of astonishing. For many, the results were immediate. The brain training exercises helped sharpen their cognitive abilities, while the dietary changes reduced their leg cramps and improved their overall health. But what was even more powerful was the way it impacted their emotional well-being. Seniors who had once felt like they were losing control of their lives now felt empowered. They were taking charge of their health in a way they had never thought possible. One of the first success stories came from a woman named Margaret, a 72-year-old from New York City who had been struggling with both leg cramps and early signs of memory loss. She had tried everything, from conventional painkillers to memory supplements, but nothing had worked. When she heard about the new program combining brain training and diet, she decided to give it a try. Margaret began incorporating the exercises and dietary changes into her daily routine. Within weeks, she noticed a dramatic reduction in the frequency of her leg cramps. But what was even more surprising was how much clearer her mind felt. She could focus better, recall names and faces more easily, and even began solving puzzles that had once seemed too difficult. "It's like my brain is waking up again," Margaret said in a letter she sent to the team. "I can't remember the last time I felt so sharp and energetic. And the leg cramps? They're gone. I feel like I have my life back." Margaret's success story quickly became one of many. As the program spread across the globe, seniors reported similar transformations. In places like the United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada, where the program had already gained significant traction, the combined approach of diet, exercise, and cognitive training began to resonate deeply with senior communities. But the story didn't end there. The success of the program also caught the attention of other professionals in the health and wellness industry. Dr. Shaw's work had always been respected, but now, with Musk's involvement, it was gaining even more visibility. Researchers from across the world began to approach Musk and Dr. Shaw with new ideas and potential collaborations. One of the most significant partnerships came when the team collaborated with an innovative biotech company specializing in stem cell research. They had developed a groundbreaking treatment that showed promise in regenerating muscle tissue and improving mobility in seniors. While the treatment was still in the early stages of testing, Musk saw its potential as the next step in their mission to improve aging. "We've already made tremendous progress with diet and brain health," Musk told his team during a strategy meeting. "But if we could add a regenerative element to the mix, it would be a game changer. We're not just talking about pain relief anymore, we're talking about the possibility of truly reversing the effects of aging." The team worked quickly to integrate the stem cell research into their ongoing program. Although it would take time for the biotech partnership to yield results, they knew that it could eventually offer seniors a chance to not only manage pain but to restore some of the lost mobility and function that came with aging. This new treatment would be the cutting-edge next step for the program, a tool that would help seniors live longer, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. As the partnership network grew, so did the program's reach and influence. What began as a simple dietary solution to leg cramps had blossomed into a comprehensive, multidimensional health initiative that was changing the way the world viewed aging. With each new collaboration, the program grew more powerful, more accessible, and more effective in transforming the lives of seniors everywhere. As the world continued to adapt to the groundbreaking changes brought about by Elon Musk's initiative, the future of aging began to shift before everyone's eyes. The integrated approach of physical health, brain training, and cutting-edge biotech was proving to be far more than just a temporary solution, it was the beginning of an entirely new era in senior health. For years, aging had been viewed primarily as a process of decline. The elderly were often relegated to a life of limited mobility, chronic pain, and cognitive struggles. But now, with the combined power of Musk's program, things were beginning to change. Seniors around the world were experiencing better mobility, sharper minds, and a renewed sense of purpose in their golden years. This was no longer about just adding years to life, it was about adding life to those years. Musk stood in front of a large display screen in the program's headquarters, reviewing a report on the latest developments. His team had partnered with healthcare professionals and researchers from around the world, and the results were starting to show. In the past, the idea of reversing the effects of aging had seemed like science fiction, but now, it was becoming an undeniable reality. "Take a look at this," Musk said to Olivia, his closest advisor, as he pointed to the data on the screen. "We're seeing seniors reporting not only relief from leg cramps and cognitive improvements, but they're also experiencing better heart health, increased muscle mass, and even enhanced energy levels. These aren't just side effects, they're a direct result of the combined program." Olivia nodded, her expression a mix of pride and excitement. The integration of everything, the diet, the brain exercises, the stem cell research, is leading to a kind of holistic health revolution. It's like we're starting to see aging in a completely different light. People are beginning to realize that they don't have to accept the physical decline that's been accepted as normal for so long. Musk's eyes sparkled with determination. "Exactly. This isn't just about making people feel better. This is about changing the entire narrative of aging. It's about empowering seniors to live their lives to the fullest, regardless of their age. We're challenging the very concept of what it means to get older." As the program continued to expand, one of the key challenges Musk's team faced was ensuring that these new breakthroughs were accessible to everyone. Initially, the program had been available to wealthier individuals in developed countries. But Musk, ever the disruptor, wasn't content with limiting the benefits to only a select few. He was determined to make these innovations accessible to seniors in every corner of the globe. "Access to healthcare shouldn't be a privilege, it should be a right," Musk said in a company-wide meeting. "We need to find a way to make this program available to everyone, no matter their economic status or where they live." The whole point of this revolution is to help as many people as possible. We can't stop now. The team went to work, partnering with international organizations, governments, and nonprofits to bring the program to low-income and rural communities. They created more affordable versions of the wearable devices that tracked seniors' physical and cognitive health, and they developed a digital platform that allowed people to access the brain training exercises and health tips without needing expensive hardware. They even worked with local health organizations in countries like India, Brazil, and South Africa to ensure that seniors in these areas had access to the same resources as those in wealthier nations. Musk and his team also began focusing on the younger generation, hoping to instill in them the importance of taking care of their bodies and minds before they reached old age. Prevention is better than cure, Musk often said in interviews. If we can teach young people to live healthier, more balanced lives, we can shift the aging process for the entire population. But as the program became more inclusive, Musk began to realize that the battle against aging was not just about physical health, it was also about societal perceptions. Many people, especially in younger generations, still viewed aging as something to fear. To truly succeed, Musk knew they needed to change the way the world viewed the elderly. In a speech at a global health conference, Musk addressed the issue head-on. Aging isn't a curse. It's not something to be ashamed of or feared. It's a natural part of life, but it's also a time for growth, for learning, and for rediscovery. The more we support seniors in maintaining their health, the more they'll contribute to society. They have so much to offer, and it's time we recognize that. The response to Musk's speech was overwhelming. People from all over the world shared their stories of how the program had transformed their lives, and the message began to resonate with younger generations as well. The idea that aging could be a time of reinvention, not just decline, was gaining momentum. As the program's reach expanded, it became clear that it was not just a health initiative, it was a cultural movement. It was changing the way society viewed aging, and in doing so, it was inspiring people to live more fully at every stage of life. But Musk didn't stop there. His next goal was to create a true aging ecosystem, one that didn't just focus on individual health, but on building communities that supported seniors in every aspect of their lives. He envisioned a world where seniors could continue to work, volunteer, and contribute to society in meaningful ways, all while maintaining their health and vitality. We need to create a world where seniors are seen as a vital part of the workforce and society at large, Musk said during a brainstorming session with his team. Let's create smart, senior-friendly cities. Let's design technology that makes life easier, not just for young people but for everyone. Aging should never be a reason to feel left behind. To make this vision a reality, Musk began working with urban planners, architects, and technologists to design cities that were optimized for aging populations. These cities would feature walkable streets, accessible public transportation, smart homes that monitored health, and community spaces where seniors could engage with others. They would be places where people of all ages could thrive, contributing to a society that embraced the elderly rather than sidelining them. With the global success of his health program and the emergence of his new vision for senior living, Elon Musk had solidified his place as a true pioneer, not just in technology but in healthcare and social innovation. He had done what many thought was impossible, he had redefined aging. The program continued to evolve, bringing more scientific breakthroughs, more partnerships, and more success stories. The future of aging was no longer about inevitable decline, it was about empowerment, longevity, and the endless possibilities of life, no matter the number of years lived. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The success of Musk's program had transformed aging from a concept of inevitable decline into a new era of vitality, independence, and empowerment. As seniors continued to experience groundbreaking improvements in both their physical and cognitive health, the program quickly became a global phenomenon. But Elon Musk, true to his nature, was not one to rest on his laurels. He was already setting his sights on the future, envisioning a world where aging was not just manageable, but also deeply integrated into society's evolving fabric. The next phase of Musk's mission was to push the boundaries of what was possible even further. With his existing health program becoming a success, he began focusing on how technology could better support seniors in their everyday lives, ensuring that they not only lived longer, but also lived better. As an innovator in artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, and space exploration, Musk's vision for the future had always been one of limitless potential, and aging was no exception. One of the most groundbreaking projects Musk had started working on was the development of smart senior cities, communities designed to meet the unique needs of older generations. These cities, which Musk called Elder Sphere, would integrate advanced technology, urban planning, and healthcare in ways never before seen. They would be self-sustaining ecosystems where seniors could live, work, and interact with the world in a seamless and supportive environment. "I believe that we are at a critical juncture," Musk explained during a presentation on the Elder Sphere initiative. "We have the technology to make life better for seniors, and it's time to rethink how we design our cities. These smart senior cities will use AI, robotics, and even renewable energy to create spaces where aging isn't something to fear, but something to celebrate. They'll be designed for people who want to live with purpose, autonomy, and connection." The Elder Sphere concept was revolutionary. Imagine a world where seniors could seamlessly interact with their environment through advanced AI-powered systems, which could anticipate their needs, monitor their health, and even provide companionship when needed. These cities would feature advanced robotics that could assist with mobility, transport, and everyday chores, as well as green spaces designed to encourage social interaction and physical activity. One of the most exciting aspects of these cities would be their design. Unlike traditional cities, where seniors often face barriers to mobility and access, the Elder Sphere cities would be fully optimized for people of all ages, but especially seniors. Streets would be wide and well-lit, with benches and resting spots every few feet. Buildings would have elevators and ramps, and homes would be equipped with smart technology to assist with everything from medication reminders to emergency alerts. But the most innovative aspect of the Elder Sphere cities would be their integration of health monitoring systems. Each home and public space would be equipped with sensors and AI-powered devices that could track the health of residents in real time. These systems could monitor blood pressure, heart rate, mobility, and even cognitive function, alerting caregivers or medical professionals to any changes that needed attention. In case of an emergency, robots or autonomous vehicles could quickly transport individuals to the nearest healthcare facility. The concept of Elder Sphere had far-reaching implications, not just for seniors, but for society as a whole. Musk's goal was not only to create better environments for seniors, but to challenge and change the way people thought about aging. By integrating seniors into active, dynamic, and thriving communities, Musk believed that they could become more than just a part of society. They could drive innovation, contribute to their communities, and lead fulfilling lives at any age. "The problem isn't aging," Musk said during his keynote. "The problem is that we've built a society that doesn't support aging. We've made it harder for seniors to be part of the workforce, harder for them to live independently, and harder for them to maintain their sense of purpose. But that can change. If we design the right environments, if we provide the right technology, seniors can thrive well into their later years." The response to the Elder Sphere initiative was overwhelming. Architects, urban planners, and tech innovators across the globe began reaching out to Musk's team, eager to collaborate on this ambitious vision. Within months, pilot programs were set up in select locations around the world, beginning with smaller communities in Scandinavia, Japan, and the United States. These pilot programs would test the integration of AI and robotics, as well as the design concepts Musk had envisioned. The initial results were promising. In the pilot cities, seniors found themselves able to live more independently and with less fear of isolation. They were able to monitor their health with ease, participate in social activities, and even contribute to the workforce, thanks to the supportive environments created by the Elder Sphere design. Some of the most promising feedback came from seniors who had once struggled with depression or cognitive decline, but who now felt more engaged and more in control of their lives. Samantha, a 68-year-old former teacher from Los Angeles, was one of the early adopters of the pilot program in California. After her husband passed away, Samantha had struggled with loneliness and mobility issues. She had tried living in a traditional retirement community, but she found it isolating and limiting. When she moved to one of the Elder Sphere pilot communities, everything changed. "The difference is night and day," Samantha said in a testimonial video. "It's like I have my life back. I'm able to get out and walk with my neighbors, my health is being monitored all the time, and the technology helps me keep track of my medications and appointments. But the best part is, I'm not alone. I'm part of a community that really cares." As more seniors joined the program, the sense of community and empowerment grew. But the Elder Sphere initiative was just one part of Musk's larger vision. He knew that in order for this new era of aging to truly take hold, he needed to continue pushing the boundaries of innovation. One area that Musk began to focus on was genetic research. Musk had long been fascinated by the potential of gene editing and its ability to prevent or even reverse certain aspects of aging. He began collaborating with top geneticists and biotech companies to explore the possibility of using CRISPR technology to target the genes responsible for aging-related diseases, such as Alzheimer's and osteoporosis. "Imagine if we could slow down or even reverse the genetic causes of aging," Musk said during an interview with a biotech publication. "If we could repair the DNA damage that occurs as we age, we could significantly extend the health span of individuals. We could give people the ability to age gracefully without the physical and cognitive decline that typically accompanies getting older." While the genetic research was still in its early stages, the potential for breakthroughs was enormous. Musk's program had already demonstrated that lifestyle changes, technology, and innovation could make a profound difference in the way seniors aged. Now, with the promise of gene editing on the horizon, the future of aging looked more hopeful than ever. The wave of innovation brought about by Elon Musk's senior health revolution was gaining momentum, not just within individual households, but also across entire healthcare systems. As the Elder Sphere cities became successful models of senior empowerment, it was becoming clear that the program's impact was going to extend far beyond individual health practices. It would revolutionize the way healthcare systems around the world approached aging. For decades, healthcare systems had been designed primarily around managing the ailments of older adults once they had already developed. Chronic conditions like arthritis, heart disease, and dementia were accepted as inevitable parts of aging, and medical professionals focused on managing symptoms, rather than preventing them. But Musk's vision of aging was different. By reimagining the aging process itself, through a holistic approach that combined nutrition, physical activity, mental stimulation, and cutting-edge technology, he was challenging the very foundation of modern healthcare. "It's no longer enough to simply manage disease," Musk said at an international healthcare conference. "We need to shift our focus to preventing these diseases before they even begin. We need to treat aging as a process we can influence, not something that just happens to us." The health outcomes of the Musk program were undeniable. Seniors in the Elder Sphere communities, who followed the diet plan, participated in regular physical activity, and used the brain exercises, were not just living longer, they were living healthier, more active lives. They were able to maintain their independence, avoid debilitating diseases, and, most importantly, enjoy life with fewer physical or mental limitations. In many ways, this was the start of a global revolution. The shift from reactive to proactive healthcare was a radical change, and it was gaining traction around the world. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services began pushing for policy changes that would align with Musk's vision for aging. At the same time, healthcare professionals across the world were being encouraged to rethink their approach to elderly care, moving away from the traditional focus on treatments and interventions after the fact, and instead focusing on preventive care from the outset. The new initiatives were groundbreaking in several ways. The concept of predictive health was introduced, where medical data collected through wearable technology and environmental sensors could help predict health events before they occurred. For instance, a sensor on a senior's wrist could detect changes in blood pressure, temperature, and heart rate, signaling the onset of a potential stroke or heart attack. The system would immediately notify caregivers or medical professionals to intervene before the situation became critical. Additionally, senior care facilities began to transition from places that merely offered basic medical support to true wellness centers. Nurses and doctors were trained not just to treat illness but to help seniors maintain vitality. Exercise programs were tailored to individuals, and mental health support was emphasized just as much as physical health. Social programs and community events were integrated into the daily schedules, fostering an environment that encouraged seniors to stay engaged and connected with their peers. But the change wasn't limited to healthcare professionals. The general public was also starting to embrace the idea of aging differently. Where previously, younger generations viewed getting older with a sense of dread, now there was growing acceptance of the idea that aging could be an active, fulfilling experience. Younger people, too, were beginning to see the importance of prevention and were becoming more invested in maintaining their health as they aged. However, as with any major shift, there were challenges. The healthcare system, already strained by rising costs and an aging population, was not equipped to handle such a sweeping transformation overnight. Policies and frameworks needed to be put in place to support these new approaches to aging. Countries around the world, including the US, began to grapple with how they could integrate Musk's innovations into their existing healthcare systems while maintaining affordability and accessibility. Musk's team worked alongside policymakers and health experts to craft solutions. "We're talking about a paradigm shift," said Dr. Elena Ford, one of the lead health policy advisors on Musk's team. "This isn't just about adding years to life, it's about adding health to those years. And we need the systems in place to support that." Governments across the globe began adopting new regulations that focused on preventive healthcare for seniors, incorporating technology to monitor health, creating more age-friendly public spaces, and promoting wellness programs that encouraged physical and mental activity. In countries like Sweden, Canada, and Japan, where aging populations were becoming a growing concern, these measures were welcomed with open arms. The push for age-inclusive societies became an integral part of international discussions on future urban planning, healthcare, and economics. While the transition was challenging, the results were beginning to speak for themselves. Healthcare costs, which had been projected to skyrocket due to the growing number of elderly individuals requiring intensive care, began to stabilize. Seniors who maintained their health through preventive measures were far less reliant on expensive medical treatments and hospital stays. Governments realized that investing in proactive health measures was far more cost-effective in the long run, and they began allocating more resources to public health programs focused on aging. Musk's company also launched several partnerships with global healthcare providers to expand the program's reach. By leveraging the network of health professionals who were now trained in his holistic approach to aging, Musk's team was able to deploy tailored health programs across countries with aging populations. In rural and underdeveloped areas, new mobile health units were created to bring healthcare services to seniors who might otherwise have been left behind. These units used the same technology as the eldersphere cities, equipped with wearable devices that could remotely track a senior's health status and deliver the necessary support as needed. As the program continued to expand, an even bigger challenge arose: the need to address the social aspect of aging. A growing number of seniors were not just facing health issues, but also social isolation. The rise of technology, while helping with health monitoring, had inadvertently contributed to a sense of disconnectedness, as families and communities became more spread out. The solution, Musk realized, was to create interconnected social spaces, where seniors could continue to engage, share experiences, and feel valued. "Health is not just about the body," Musk reflected in a speech to his team. "It's about the mind and the connections we have. We need to create opportunities for seniors to stay socially engaged, to share their knowledge and wisdom, and to feel that they are still contributing to the world. That's the next frontier of aging." The eldersphere cities took this to heart, incorporating social hubs and gathering spaces where seniors could take part in community activities, share hobbies, and even work. With the rise of digital platforms, seniors were also able to connect with younger generations, providing mentorship and building relationships that transcended age. This created a thriving ecosystem, where seniors were no longer marginalized but celebrated for their life experiences and contributions. As the years went by, Musk's vision for aging continued to evolve. His health program had transformed from a simple initiative to revolutionize senior wellness into a full-fledged global movement. The future of aging, with its combination of health, technology, and social integration, was no longer a distant dream, it was becoming a reality. As Elon Musk's health initiative continued to evolve and make strides in improving the quality of life for seniors, it became clear that the change needed to go beyond just healthcare systems and urban planning. The societal narrative surrounding aging was ripe for transformation. Historically, aging had been portrayed as a time of decline, loss of vitality, and disengagement from society. But Musk's innovations were rewriting this story, turning aging into a phase of personal empowerment, discovery, and continued contribution to society. This shift wasn't just about providing seniors with better healthcare, it was about changing the way people viewed their place in the world as they grew older. With his Eldersphere project gaining traction, Musk began to look at the broader cultural implications of this shift. In his view, to truly transform the experience of aging, it was necessary to change how society viewed older generations. He believed that society's perception of aging had been locked in a negative framework, largely driven by mainstream media, advertising, and popular culture. The elderly were too often depicted as frail, dependent, and out of touch with the modern world, and this narrative needed to change. Musk's team realized that to reshape how aging was viewed, they needed to tackle the media head-on. They began working with top content creators, filmmakers, and influencers to challenge the prevailing stereotypes and instead showcase seniors as dynamic, capable, and valuable members of society. This initiative wasn't just about promoting the health benefits of the Eldersphere program, it was about telling stories that highlighted the positive contributions of older adults, the adventures they could still have, and the power they held in shaping the future. The world was ready for this transformation. In an era where youth and vitality were so often glorified, Musk saw an opportunity to turn that narrative on its head. He envisioned a future where older individuals would be seen not just as the recipients of care but as active participants in shaping the future. One of the first steps in this new narrative was the launch of the Age of Innovation media campaign. The campaign featured seniors who were leading extraordinary lives, taking on new challenges, learning new skills, and contributing to their communities in innovative ways. From a 70-year-old who became a competitive esports player to an 80-year-old who built a successful tech startup, the campaign highlighted how aging could be a time of reinvention rather than decline. Among the stories featured was that of Miriam, a 72-year-old woman from New York City who had spent her career as a high school teacher but had recently started a nonprofit organization dedicated to teaching digital literacy to older adults. Miriam had always been passionate about technology, but after retiring, she found herself disillusioned with the idea of just relaxing at home. Instead, she decided to create a program that would help other seniors learn how to use smartphones, computers, and the internet, which had become essential in today's world. "I'm not just sitting around waiting to get old," Miriam said during an interview for the campaign. "I'm still learning, still teaching, still making a difference. And I know I'm not the only one. There are thousands of people out there doing amazing things well into their 70s, 80s, and beyond. It's time people saw that." Her story resonated with millions, proving that seniors were no longer limited by age. They were leading tech workshops, volunteering abroad, and becoming successful entrepreneurs. The Age of Innovation campaign sparked a movement, encouraging older individuals to embrace their vitality and redefine what it meant to grow older. As the media campaign continued, the broader public began to respond. Television shows, movies, and advertisements started reflecting this new reality. Films that had once portrayed older characters as frail and outdated now featured seniors as mentors, heroes, and adventurers. The portrayal of seniors in advertising also began to change, with brands highlighting older adults in roles that emphasized their knowledge, confidence, and active lifestyles. Even Hollywood, which had traditionally leaned on youthful characters to tell their stories, started to take notice. A wave of films and documentaries emerged that focused on older protagonists, whose stories were not about their decline but about their journeys of growth, transformation, and empowerment. Titles like The Last Adventure, which followed a group of retirees embarking on an around-the-world journey, and Silver Linings, a documentary about seniors learning to code and launch their own tech businesses, gained both critical and commercial success. The Age of Innovation campaign also sparked conversations around the world about how to best support older adults in staying engaged with the world. In social media spaces, influencers like Zara, a 66-year-old grandmother who had become famous for her fitness and wellness YouTube channel, inspired millions of followers with her energetic and fun-loving approach to aging. Zara, once just another retiree, had transformed herself into a symbol of strength and independence, proving that staying fit, learning new things, and embracing change were not just for young people, they were for everyone. This cultural shift was also embraced in the education system. Schools began to introduce programs aimed at fostering intergenerational learning, where younger people could learn from the life experiences and wisdom of older adults. In some regions, students were even encouraged to work with seniors on technology-based projects, bridging the generational gap and encouraging collaboration between the old and the young. The eldersphere cities also played a significant role in this cultural shift. These cities became more than just places to live, they became vibrant hubs of activity, with seniors engaged in a variety of creative and professional pursuits. In addition to the healthcare and wellness benefits, these cities offered opportunities for older adults to participate in a thriving art scene, where they could perform in plays, showcase their artwork, and mentor younger artists. As a result, the eldersphere cities became epicenters of creativity, innovation, and engagement, showing the world that aging wasn't just about retirement, it was about living life to the fullest. And yet, while this cultural transformation was happening, challenges remained. Not everyone was ready to embrace the idea of seniors as active contributors to society. Many felt threatened by the new narrative, fearing that it would challenge societal norms and expectations. There were also concerns about the potential for ageism, as some individuals, particularly younger generations, worried that they might be overshadowed by the older generation's newfound vitality. Elon Musk was prepared for this backlash. He understood that any societal shift of this magnitude would face resistance. However, he remained confident in the importance of the movement. Changing a narrative takes time, Musk said in an interview. But when you see the impact of this shift on people's lives, their health, their happiness, their sense of purpose, it becomes clear that it's the right path forward. As the years passed, more and more people began to see the wisdom in Musk's vision. Slowly but surely, the narrative surrounding aging was transformed, and seniors around the world were no longer seen as a burden on society, but as active and integral parts of the fabric of the future. The age of innovation had begun, and with it came a new understanding of what it meant to grow older. As Elon Musk's vision for aging continued to flourish, it became clear that the longevity revolution wasn't just a question of improving health for seniors, it was also raising profound ethical and philosophical dilemmas. The advancements Musk's company had brought to the aging process were undeniably groundbreaking. Yet, as the boundaries between life and death became more malleable, the question of how far society should push these advancements began to emerge. With the eldersphere cities now fully operational and seniors worldwide experiencing unprecedented health benefits, the concept of lifespan was being challenged in ways previously unimaginable. People weren't just living longer, they were thriving longer, with mental and physical capabilities on par with much younger adults. But this newfound longevity posed a complex problem: how far should humanity go in extending life, and at what cost? Musk himself had always been a proponent of pushing the boundaries of possibility, whether in space exploration, artificial intelligence, or now in human longevity. He often spoke about the necessity of overcoming biological limitations to ensure that humanity could continue to grow and innovate. But in private moments, he began to grapple with deeper questions. Was there a moral obligation to limit the technology he had helped create? What role did society play in determining how long individuals should live, and who would decide? These questions became even more pressing as Musk's innovations gained wider acceptance. People everywhere began to realize that extending life wasn't just about adding years, it was about changing the very fabric of society. There was a growing fear that longer lifespans could lead to social and economic inequalities, with younger generations struggling to compete with seniors who, thanks to advancements in health and vitality, were staying in the workforce and living active, fulfilling lives well into their 100s or beyond. At a global summit on longevity ethics, Musk stood before a crowd of policymakers, healthcare professionals, and bioethicists, ready to tackle these tough questions. The conference was held in Geneva, and the audience was filled with representatives from various countries, each grappling with their own approaches to healthcare, aging, and population control. Humanity has always sought to overcome limitations, Musk began. And in our time, that includes aging. We have the tools now to extend not just lifespan, but health span, to allow people to live longer, healthier lives. The question we must ask ourselves is not whether we should pursue this, but how we do it responsibly. A murmur ran through the crowd as Musk spoke. The room was full of people who were deeply invested in the future of aging, but no one could deny that the issues were complex. For years, scientists had been trying to extend life through genetic manipulation, nanotechnology, and regenerative medicine, but none had made such widespread breakthroughs as Musk's team. His ability to blend AI-driven health monitoring with tailored nutritional and exercise plans had revolutionized how aging was perceived, and how it was experienced. But there were concerns. For one, extending life indefinitely could exacerbate existing inequalities. The wealthy, who could afford the most advanced health care and treatments, would live longer, healthier lives, while the poor would be left behind, unable to access the same resources. Furthermore, overpopulation was becoming a real concern. If people were living much longer, how would societies handle the balance of resources? Could the planet sustain an exponentially growing population if every generation lived 20 or even 30 years longer? How do we create a system that benefits all of humanity? Musk asked, his voice calm but firm. How do we ensure that longevity isn't just a privilege for the rich and powerful, but something that everyone can access? And how do we balance longer lives with the sustainability of our planet? The debate that followed was intense. Some argued that extending life could lead to a society of stagnation, where innovation slowed down because the older generation, who might hold on to power for longer, could prevent younger generations from taking charge. Others, however, believed that the ability to live longer, healthier lives would lead to an increase in creativity and wisdom. Older generations, freed from the shackles of debilitating diseases, would continue to contribute to scientific, artistic, and technological progress. As the conference continued, the conversation shifted toward what some were calling the philosophy of aging. If technology could offer individuals the opportunity to live indefinitely, should we pursue it? Or, was there value in the natural cycle of life and death? Would humanity lose something essential if it could escape the inevitability of mortality? One particularly vocal participant, Dr. Sophia Blackwell, a bioethicist from Oxford, raised a provocative point: "You are suggesting that we should extend life indefinitely, Elon. But have you considered the implications on human identity? If people live too long, do they still remain who they are? What happens when memory and personality are stretched over hundreds of years? Will the soul of a person still exist if they continue to live for centuries?" Her question sparked heated discussion, and Musk, as composed as ever, paused before responding. "To me, it's not about immortality. It's about allowing people to live healthier, longer lives with purpose. We're not aiming for an eternal life, we're aiming for an enriched life, one where people can contribute to society for longer, raise their families, continue to innovate, and enjoy the process of life. In that sense, it's not about escaping death, it's about how we live, for however long that might be." The conversation shifted back to practical solutions. Musk's team began working on ideas for ensuring that the benefits of the aging program were accessible to everyone, regardless of socioeconomic status. They partnered with global organizations to create subsidies for elder-sphere-like wellness programs that could be implemented in underserved communities. Meanwhile, Countries began integrating the new technology into their public health systems, developing policies that emphasized the need for universal access to preventive healthcare, from nutrition plans to genetic screening. As the debate continued, more voices were added to the conversation. Philosophers, ethicists, religious leaders, and political figures all joined the discussion, each offering their own perspective on the future of aging. The world was grappling with the idea of longevity in ways it never had before, and it became clear that the path forward was going to require cooperation, dialogue, and careful thought. For Musk, the answers were far from simple. He realized that any breakthrough as monumental as the one he was spearheading would require not just scientific expertise, but a nuanced understanding of the human condition. And while he remained committed to pushing the boundaries of technology, he knew that a thoughtful, ethical approach to these advancements was essential. In the coming months, Musk's team worked to develop a new set of guidelines, the ethics of longevity. These principles would serve as a framework for how the world should approach the aging revolution. They were designed to ensure that the benefits of longer, healthier lives were distributed fairly, with attention to the environment, social equity, and individual autonomy. As the discussion about the ethics of longevity continued to unfold, it was clear that the future of aging was not just about technology. It was about humanity's capacity to adapt, think critically, and make decisions that would not only shape the lives of seniors, but the future of the entire world. As the world embraced the longevity revolution brought forth by Elon Musk and his groundbreaking health technologies, governments around the globe found themselves confronted with a new set of challenges and opportunities. The aging population was no longer a distant concern, it was an urgent reality. As Musk's Eldersphere initiative and his nutritional programs began reshaping the way people aged, the demand for policies that could support an aging but thriving population surged. In many ways, the challenge for governments wasn't just about adjusting healthcare systems to accommodate the extended lifespan of citizens. It was about recalibrating entire societal infrastructures to account for people living decades longer, fully capable, active, and engaged in their communities. Musk's revolutionary programs were proving effective in providing seniors with healthier, longer lives, but they also raised a series of questions that required political leaders to think long-term about their nation's future. How would economies adapt to an aging yet more active population? How could governments ensure that the resources to support an aging society were distributed equitably? And perhaps most pressing, how would nations balance the demands of an aging population with the need for intergenerational equity? The discussions around these questions began to take shape at the United Nations Global Health Summit in late 2027. It was here that Musk, along with leaders from the World Health Organization, WHO, and major healthcare providers, presented a global framework for addressing aging in the modern world. The summit had been convened to help governments assess the broad social and economic implications of the aging revolution and how to manage these changes effectively. Musk's proposal was ambitious, a combination of global healthcare reform, universal access to the Eldersphere programs, and international policies designed to promote intergenerational collaboration and wealth redistribution. The idea was simple in concept, but complex in execution: help governments navigate the challenge of providing for an aging population without neglecting younger generations who needed opportunities for growth and development. The future is not just about more years, Musk said at the summit. It's about creating the conditions where every generation, young or old, can thrive, contribute, and learn from one another. The future needs to be inclusive. At the summit, leaders from both developing and developed nations debated the implications of these ideas. Countries like Japan, which had one of the oldest populations in the world, were particularly interested in the possibilities that Musk's longevity technologies offered. Japan's government had already been experimenting with robotic technology to assist its elderly, but Musk's vision of active aging, where seniors could remain healthy and engaged in society for much longer, was a game-changer. The United States, meanwhile, was focused on how to finance these programs on a national scale. While the private sector had already begun to invest heavily in health innovation, the question remained: how could the government subsidize these technologies to ensure all citizens, regardless of income, had access? One of the most significant proposals Musk made was the establishment of longevity funds, large pools of investment dedicated to funding health, wellness, and caregiving initiatives for seniors, as well as programs that encouraged young people to take care of their aging loved ones. These funds would be financed by public and private partnerships, ensuring that wealthier nations shared resources with those struggling to provide basic healthcare. There were challenges, of course. In many parts of the world, public healthcare systems were already under strain, and introducing new technologies without careful planning could overwhelm fragile infrastructures. For instance, the United Kingdom, which had long struggled with its National Health Service, NHS, was worried about the financial burden that universal access to Musk's programs could impose. However, some of the answers to these concerns lay in Musk's own business model. By pushing for the development of affordable AI-driven healthcare tools and self-sustaining, tech-enabled senior living communities, Musk hoped to mitigate the cost pressures on governments. His company, Tesla Health, began producing scalable versions of eldersphere-type wellness communities, smaller, more affordable neighborhoods that could be integrated into existing cities. These were not the sprawling luxury hubs that were initially part of the program, but more compact, tech-forward communities designed to fit within the financial reach of lower and middle-income families. Musk's team also worked with international organizations like the WHO to refine a global longevity index, which would allow governments to track the success of aging programs across the world and adjust their policies accordingly. This would create a robust global database of best practices, providing policymakers with the tools they needed to make informed decisions about the future of aging. In the U.S., the political debate around the issue of aging and longevity came to a head in 2028, when a new bill, the Age Empowerment Act, was introduced in Congress. The bill was designed to offer tax incentives to companies that provided aging-related healthcare services, as well as subsidies for individuals seeking access to eldersphere programs. The bill also sought to incentivize the creation of intergenerational living spaces, where young people and seniors could live together, share resources, and provide mutual support. While the bill received broad support in some quarters, it faced opposition from others who worried about the potential economic strain. Skeptics pointed out that extending lifespans could lead to overpopulation, with more people drawing on limited resources, particularly in areas like housing, food, and healthcare. Longevity is a wonderful thing, but we have to ask ourselves, can we sustain a society where people live 120, 130 years? How do we ensure we have enough jobs, enough resources, enough space for everyone, said Representative Laura Harris, one of the bill's vocal critics. Her concerns echoed a broader fear that the world's existing infrastructure was ill-prepared to handle such a seismic shift. In particular, critics worried that the growing number of seniors living longer would create a more stagnant workforce, where older individuals held on to jobs longer and stifled younger generations' opportunities. However, Musk and his supporters argued that the exact opposite could happen. They pointed to evidence that seniors, when kept healthy and mentally engaged, were often just as productive, if not more productive, than younger workers. Furthermore, Musk suggested that as more seniors remained in the workforce, they could help guide the next generation, sharing their wealth of knowledge and experience. This intergenerational collaboration, he argued, would lead to greater innovation and societal growth. The debate about the longevity revolution didn't stop in government halls. It moved into the private sector, with businesses beginning to see the potential for creating longevity products for the mass market. From AI-driven health apps to supplements and customized fitness plans, the private sector exploded with innovations aimed at improving quality of life for seniors. And as the longevity revolution continued to gain momentum, the most important question remained. Could the world build a future where aging was seen as an opportunity, not a burden? Could society provide the resources and infrastructure to ensure that everyone, regardless of age, could thrive? As the aging revolution began to reshape the world's policies and healthcare systems, it was also sparking a cultural transformation. The promise of longer, healthier lives wasn't just influencing laws and economies, it was altering the very way people viewed aging itself. Elon Musk's vision of active aging was no longer confined to a select few in eldersphere communities. It had become a global movement, with individuals of all ages reimagining what it meant to live a full, vibrant life. No longer was aging something to be feared. For centuries, the idea of growing older had been associated with decline, illness, and eventual death. But now, thanks to advancements in Musk's health technologies, longevity had become synonymous with vitality, opportunity, and personal growth. The conversation about aging had shifted from one of loss to one of potential. In many ways, this shift was being led by the younger generations, Millennials and Gen Z, who were beginning to embrace the idea that their lives might span 120, 130 years or even longer. They weren't waiting until they were elderly to start thinking about their futures, they were actively planning for long, fulfilling lives that would see them not just age, but thrive. Social media played a major role in this cultural transformation. Hashtags like #AgelessLiving and #VibrantAging started trending on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Young influencers and older individuals alike began sharing their stories of embracing this new era of aging, posting about their health routines, mental wellness practices, and the positive impact of eldersphere technologies. The message was clear: aging wasn't a curse, it was an opportunity to reinvent oneself, to explore new passions, to take on new challenges. An inspiring example of this was Olivia Martinez, a 68-year-old retired schoolteacher from New York City who had become a viral sensation on TikTok. Olivia, with her trademark silver hair and infectious energy, had embraced the principles of Musk's longevity programs, and in doing so, had radically transformed her own life. She had lost 40 pounds, taken up painting, and began traveling the world, all of this after her 60th birthday. Age is just a number, Olivia frequently told her followers. And it doesn't have to mean slowing down. We're living longer, and we deserve to live those years fully, with joy and passion. Her videos, in which she shared health tips, travel adventures, and moments of personal growth, resonated with people of all ages. Olivia became a symbol of the new philosophy surrounding aging, a philosophy that celebrated the richness of life at every stage. But while many embraced this new vision of aging, the cultural shift wasn't without its challenges. Older generations, especially those who had lived through the traditional struggles of aging, found it difficult to adjust to the idea of forever young. For them, the idea of aging well wasn't about staying youthful, it was about managing decline with dignity and grace. They feared that the cultural obsession with youth would overshadow the wisdom and experiences they had accumulated over their lifetimes. Some even began to voice concerns that the longevity movement could unintentionally foster a new kind of ageism, one where the elderly were expected to act and look young, pushing them to undergo unnecessary cosmetic procedures or extreme lifestyle changes. There was a subtle pressure to not just live longer but to do so in ways that fit into society's new standards of vitality and productivity. Dr. Elizabeth Green, a gerontologist and advocate for senior rights, voiced these concerns during a TEDx talk that went viral. While it's amazing that technology can help us live longer and healthier lives, she said, we must not forget the value of growing old with authenticity. Not every senior wants to run marathons or travel the world. For some, a peaceful, contemplative life is just as fulfilling. Dr. Green's words sparked a new conversation around aging that was both empowering and compassionate. The idea wasn't just about maintaining youthfulness. It was about creating a society that respected people of all ages, allowing them to live in ways that honored their personal desires and needs. At the same time, this new cultural attitude toward aging was reshaping relationships within families and communities. Seniors, once perceived as fragile or dependent, were now seen as sources of knowledge, wisdom, and vitality. Young people, who had once been worried about becoming stagnant as they aged, began to look to their elders as role models, people who had the tools to thrive for decades, not just survive. Generational boundaries began to blur. Intergenerational living spaces, where young adults and seniors coexisted and supported each other, became increasingly common. These spaces weren't just about practicalities like shared resources or lower living costs, they were about fostering relationships that allowed both generations to learn from one another and experience life together. The bonds forged in these spaces helped to bridge gaps between the young and the old, creating a more inclusive society that valued both youth and experience. The cultural shift was also evident in the workplace. With more seniors staying healthy and active well into their 100s, the idea of retirement as we once knew it began to disappear. Instead of retiring at 65, many seniors chose to continue working well beyond that age. Some found new careers or launched businesses, while others stayed in their original fields, offering mentorship and guidance to younger workers. In fact, a new professional movement began to emerge, the Second Career Initiative. This movement, spearheaded by organizations like Musk's own Tesla Health, encouraged people over the age of 60 to explore new career paths, launch startups, or contribute to nonprofits. It wasn't just about earning money, it was about creating purpose and meaning in the later years of life. One standout figure in this movement was James Foster, a 72-year-old former lawyer who had always dreamed of becoming a writer. With the support of longevity technologies, James reinvented himself as an author and public speaker, sharing his stories of reinvention with others. His TED Talk, titled Reinventing Yourself After 60, became a sensation, inspiring countless people to see aging as an opportunity for personal growth rather than a time for retreat. "I always thought that once I reached my 60s, I would start slowing down," James said in his talk. "But with the advancements in health and wellness, I feel like I'm just getting started. Age is no longer a barrier to our dreams, it's just another milestone." This was the message that resonated with so many people. Aging wasn't a decline, it was simply another chapter in a lifelong journey. People began to redefine the narrative of aging, not as a period of loss but as a time of discovery, reinvention, and fulfillment. The social movement around longevity also started influencing art and culture. Movies, books, and television shows began to depict older characters not as frail and forgotten, but as strong, wise, and adventurous. Films about seniors embarking on new journeys, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, began to emerge as box office hits. The cultural shift was tangible, from the characters in stories to the way society at large viewed people in their later years. As the world grappled with the social and economic implications of longer lives, one of the most significant drivers of the longevity revolution was artificial intelligence, AI. The integration of AI into healthcare, wellness, and daily life was not just reshaping how people aged, it was fundamentally changing the entire aging process. The promise of AI was more than just making life easier for seniors. It was about enhancing their quality of life, providing personalized healthcare, and ensuring that every individual could continue to live independently for as long as possible. At the heart of this transformation was ElderSphere, the advanced health and wellness platform that had become a cornerstone of Musk's vision. The system, powered by sophisticated AI algorithms, allowed seniors to receive real-time personalized health assessments, exercise plans, and dietary recommendations. But this was just the beginning. As technology advanced, the role of AI in aging would only expand, reaching new heights in terms of both practicality and innovation. One of the most groundbreaking developments in AI for aging was the creation of personal AI health assistants. These assistants, designed to be a senior's daily companion, could monitor vitals, offer reminders for medications, provide cognitive exercises, and even detect early signs of medical issues such as falls or heart irregularities. Through constant learning and data analysis, these assistants became increasingly sophisticated, adapting to the unique health needs of each individual and providing a level of personalized care that was previously unimaginable. For 84-year-old Eleanor Jacobs, an AI health assistant had become a lifeline. Eleanor, who had been living alone in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon, had struggled with managing her diabetes and the occasional bouts of dizziness that had come with age. But when she integrated the AI assistant into her daily routine, everything changed. The assistant not only helped her track her blood sugar levels but also adjusted her exercise schedule based on her energy levels and sent reminders for her doctor appointments. It even provided gentle nudges for her to socialize, suggesting community events in her neighborhood based on her interests. "I don't feel like I'm just waiting for the end anymore," Eleanor said, reflecting on how the AI had empowered her. "I feel like I have control over my life again. It's like having a personal assistant who truly cares about my health." Eleanor's story was just one example of how AI was revolutionizing aging. With the help of these digital companions, seniors were no longer isolated or left to struggle with managing their own health. AI provided both the independence to live on their own terms and the support needed to maintain optimal well-being. In addition to personal health assistance, AI was being integrated into homes to create smart environments that adapted to the needs of older adults. Homes equipped with AI-powered sensors could monitor a senior's movements, detect changes in behavior, and even alert caregivers or family members if something was amiss. These smart homes allowed seniors to live safely and independently without the need for constant supervision, offering peace of mind to both the individual and their loved ones. Musk's ElderSphere initiative had begun collaborating with companies to design these smart homes, where the integration of AI systems could automate everyday tasks. From controlling the lighting and temperature based on preferences to adjusting the refrigerator to ensure that the senior's diet remained healthy, AI was creating environments where seniors didn't just survive, they thrived. Beyond the immediate, practical uses of AI, Musk and his team were also exploring the potential of AI to improve cognitive health. Cognitive decline, particularly in conditions like Alzheimer's disease and dementia, had long been one of the most feared aspects of aging. However, with the advent of AI-driven therapies, there was a new hope for slowing or even reversing cognitive deterioration. Using machine learning algorithms, AI systems could analyze vast amounts of neurological data to identify early signs of cognitive decline before they became evident. These systems could then suggest personalized cognitive exercises or even engage directly with seniors through virtual reality (VR) programs, helping to stimulate brain activity and improve memory retention. The hope was that these therapies could delay or prevent the onset of diseases that had once been thought of as inevitable. One notable success story came from the partnership between ElderSphere and a startup specializing in AI-driven neurotherapy. The company's AI program, called MindShift, utilized brainwave patterns and neural feedback to create personalized mental exercises aimed at improving memory and cognition. When this program was introduced to a group of 70 to 80-year-olds experiencing mild cognitive decline, the results were astounding. Many participants reported noticeable improvements in memory recall, mental clarity, and overall cognitive function. Dr. Alice Langston, a neurologist and researcher involved in the MindShift program, marveled at the potential AI held for combating cognitive aging. The idea that we can personalize cognitive exercises for each individual, based on their neural patterns, is revolutionary. We've never had such a targeted approach to managing age-related cognitive decline. And the early results are promising. While these developments in cognitive health were groundbreaking, AI was also playing a key role in improving physical well-being. As Musk's initiative gained traction, AI-powered fitness programs designed for seniors began to emerge. These programs utilized machine learning to track physical performance, adjust workout routines in real time, and offer tailored recommendations based on the senior's capabilities. Whether it was strength training, yoga, or balance exercises, AI made it possible for seniors to engage in activities that were customized to their abilities and goals. Moreover, AI-driven nutrition programs were becoming a key part of the longevity revolution. By analyzing a senior's genetic makeup, health history, and dietary preferences, AI could recommend meal plans that were optimized for longevity. These plans took into account everything from heart health to inflammation control, offering seniors a personalized approach to nutrition that could prolong their lives and improve their quality of life. The combination of AI-powered health assistants, smart homes, cognitive therapies, fitness programs, and personalized nutrition represented a fundamental shift in the way society approached aging. No longer did people need to accept the idea that aging meant decline. With the help of AI, they could actively manage their health, stay engaged with their communities, and lead meaningful lives well into their 100s. Yet, as with all technological advancements, the rise of AI in aging came with its own set of ethical considerations. Privacy, data security, and the potential for AI to replace human interaction were important discussions that had to be addressed. Musk and other thought leaders in the field were keenly aware of these issues and were working hard to ensure that AI technologies were transparent, secure, and designed to complement, not replace, human care. As the world embraced the technological advances that AI brought to aging, a growing concern emerged. Could artificial intelligence ever truly replace human care? While AI had proven its ability to enhance the quality of life for seniors in many ways, through health tracking, personalized wellness routines, and even cognitive therapies, there was a palpable fear that these developments might inadvertently erase the warmth and empathy that only human caregivers could provide. Elon Musk himself had addressed the issue in various interviews, stressing that the goal of AI was never to replace human interaction, but to complement it. AI will empower us, he said, but it will never be a substitute for the connections we form with each other. It should enhance our ability to live better, not strip away the need for compassion and human touch. Despite Musk's reassurances, the debate surrounding AI and its role in caregiving intensified. On one side, proponents of AI-driven aging argued that these technologies were essential to providing seniors with the independence they deserved, especially in a world where healthcare resources were increasingly stretched. AI systems, they argued, could monitor a senior's health more efficiently than human caregivers, alerting them to changes in vital signs or potential falls before they became emergencies. Furthermore, AI-powered assistance could be available 24/7, ensuring that seniors would never be alone, regardless of the time of day or night. But critics were quick to point out that while AI could track data and provide support, it could never replicate the human connection that was so vital to emotional and mental well-being. Emotional care, whether in the form of a simple conversation, a smile, or physical touch, was something that a robot or algorithm could not provide. Aging was not just about physical health. It was about maintaining a sense of purpose, social engagement, and emotional fulfillment. Could AI truly help with that? Dr. Laura Mitchell, a clinical psychologist specializing in geriatric care, was one of the leading voices in this debate. In her book The Human Touch, Aging in the Age of Technology, she argued that while AI could enhance the physical care of seniors, it could never replace the deep emotional bonds that humans shared with one another. Think about the elderly woman who's lived alone for years, who doesn't have family nearby, and who feels isolated, Dr. Mitchell wrote. AI can track her physical health, but it cannot provide the emotional warmth of a human companion. The act of holding her hand, sitting with her, and listening to her stories, those are irreplaceable. They're what make us human. Her words resonated with many who felt that as society moved toward a more technologically dependent future, it might be sacrificing the very essence of what it meant to grow old in a human world. The fear was that AI, despite its promise, could lead to further isolation for seniors. Where they were surrounded by data and technology but lacked the personal connections that made life meaningful. In ElderSphere, one of the most successful AI platforms for seniors, the integration of AI companions had certainly improved daily life for many older adults. Yet, some found themselves growing more isolated as the technology became a central feature of their existence. The AI companions could converse, offer advice, and even provide emotional support through carefully scripted interactions. But as helpful as these companions were, they were still limited by their programming. The depth of human experience, the nuances of laughter, tears, love, and empathy, was something AI could not truly understand or replicate. At the heart of the ethical dilemma was the question of whether society was relying too heavily on technology to solve a problem that required a more holistic, human-centered approach. Could AI truly care for a senior in the way a human caregiver could? Could it recognize when a person was lonely or emotionally distressed, and offer the support that only a human could provide? While some experts believed that AI could assist in alleviating the burden on caregivers, others argued that it could create a sense of emotional detachment. Could seniors form genuine bonds with a machine, or would they begin to feel that the relationships they had were shallow, transactional, and devoid of true connection? This issue wasn't confined to the elderly. In fact, as AI began to play a larger role in everyday life, it sparked debates across all demographics about the implications of having technology mediate human interactions. AI was already a fixture in many sectors: customer service, healthcare, even education. While these systems were efficient and sometimes even helpful, there was growing concern about what was being lost in the process: the warmth of a human voice, the understanding shared through personal experiences, and the bonds that formed through shared moments of joy, sorrow, and triumph. In a high-profile TED Talk, ethicist Dr. Ronald Pierce posed the question: in our quest to make life easier, are we inadvertently sacrificing the very things that make life worth living? Can we ever truly create a world where technology and humanity coexist without one overwhelming the other? His comments sparked a wave of public debate. People were beginning to wonder whether Musk's vision for a technologically advanced, AI-driven future was as flawless as it appeared, or if it overlooked the critical need for human connection in a world that was increasingly automated. To explore this issue further, a group of ethicists, technologists, and healthcare professionals came together for a landmark summit called Aging and the Human Touch: The Ethics of AI Care. Hosted in San Francisco, the event brought together some of the leading minds in the aging revolution to discuss the future of elderly care in the context of artificial intelligence. Among the panelists was Marta Dunn, an elderly woman who had spent most of her life as a nurse. Marta had grown up in a world where families took care of their elderly members, and she was deeply skeptical of the increasing role of technology in caregiving. "I don't want to live in a world where the people who take care of me are machines," Marta said during her keynote speech. "I want the care I get to come from a place of love and understanding, not algorithms." Her words resonated with many in the audience. While the advancements in AI were undoubtedly impressive, there was still something fundamentally human that could not be replicated by machines. The challenge moving forward, as Musk and others would later agree, was finding the balance between technological support and the preservation of authentic human care. Despite the challenges, the conversation surrounding AI and aging was far from one-sided. Proponents of AI believed that with the right safeguards and ethical guidelines, the benefits of AI could be fully realized without compromising the human elements of caregiving. Perhaps, they suggested, the future would look like a world where AI handled the physical and logistical aspects of care, allowing human caregivers to focus on the emotional and relational aspects, which were arguably the most important. The key, they argued, was integration, not replacement. AI was a tool, not a substitute for human relationships. It could help seniors live longer and healthier lives, but it should never replace the compassionate, empathetic care that only humans could provide. As the aging revolution continued to unfold, this conversation would remain central to its evolution. In the next chapter, we'll explore how the global healthcare system adapted to the growing demands of an aging population, and how governments and private companies worked together to ensure that the aging process was not only sustainable but equitable for all. Would society be ready to make the necessary changes to accommodate the elderly in a world that was increasingly shaped by technology? Or would we risk leaving some people behind in the rush for progress? As the aging revolution gathered momentum, the conversation shifted from the individual experience of aging to the broader implications on society as a whole. The rise of AI, the increased use of personalized health solutions, and the ever-expanding technological landscape promised a better life for seniors, but there was still one significant obstacle: the global healthcare system. For decades, governments and private companies had been struggling to keep up with the demands of an aging population. In countries with rapidly aging populations like Japan, Italy, and the United States, the issue was particularly acute. Healthcare costs were soaring, caregivers were in short supply, and the pressure on healthcare systems was mounting. As the average life expectancy continued to rise, the question on everyone's mind was, how could we sustain an aging population without bankrupting society? Elon Musk had recognized the scale of the challenge early on and, through his work with ElderSphere and other ventures, had begun to explore innovative ways to reduce healthcare costs while improving care. But even Musk, with his vast resources and futuristic vision, couldn't ignore the limitations of the current system. The world was facing an unprecedented demographic shift, and addressing it would require global cooperation, new technologies, and, most importantly, radical policy changes. The first major hurdle was the sheer cost of providing adequate healthcare for an aging population. According to a report by the World Health Organization, the global healthcare spending on older adults was expected to triple by 2050. Countries like the United States were already spending billions of dollars on Medicare and Medicaid, but the system was increasingly strained, with many people unable to access the care they needed due to rising insurance premiums, long wait times, and understaffed facilities. One of the most alarming statistics was that by 2030, 1 in every 5 Americans would be over the age of 65. The aging of the baby boomer generation meant that the United States would soon face a crisis unlike any it had seen before. Hospitals, nursing homes, and assisted living facilities were already overwhelmed, and there was no clear solution in sight. Musk's vision for AI and technology was part of the solution. He argued that with the right technological tools, much of the burden could be shifted away from traditional healthcare institutions. Eldersphere, for example, had the potential to provide real-time health monitoring and preventative care that could reduce hospitalizations and emergency room visits. By empowering seniors to take charge of their health and well-being, technology could reduce the need for constant medical interventions and slow the progression of age-related diseases. But while Musk's technological solutions were promising, the reality was that widespread adoption of these innovations would require significant investment and infrastructure changes. Governments, healthcare providers, and tech companies would need to collaborate in unprecedented ways to make these solutions accessible and affordable for everyone, particularly those in underserved communities. In addition to technology, another key aspect of the solution was the shift toward preventative care. Traditional healthcare systems, especially in the U.S., had focused primarily on treating illness rather than preventing it. But as seniors increasingly lived with chronic conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, and dementia, it became clear that focusing on prevention would be essential to reducing long-term healthcare costs. Many experts, including Dr. Francesca Stewart, a leading geriatrician, argued that healthcare systems needed to shift from a sick care model to a healthcare model, focusing on maintaining wellness and preventing diseases before they took root. If we invest in people's health while they're still healthy, we can drastically reduce the cost of treating chronic conditions later in life, Dr. Stewart explained. This shift toward preventative care was already underway in many countries, with increased focus on nutrition, exercise, mental health, and social engagement for seniors. Musk's Eldersphere was a part of this movement, offering tailored fitness programs and dietary recommendations that not only promoted longevity but also aimed to keep seniors active and healthy for as long as possible. However, the challenge was not just about providing the right care, it was also about ensuring access to it. In rural and low-income communities, access to healthcare had always been limited. As the population aged, these disparities only deepened. Seniors in remote areas often found themselves without nearby medical facilities, unable to afford the necessary medications or treatments, and struggling to find caregivers to assist them with daily tasks. To address this, Musk and his team proposed a radical new model, a hybrid system where AI-powered telemedicine services would fill the gaps left by traditional healthcare providers. Through AI-driven health consultations, seniors in underserved communities could receive the same level of care as those in major urban centers, without ever having to leave their homes. This could include consultations with doctors, mental health professionals, nutritionists, and even caregivers. All delivered through a digital platform that connected patients to the necessary services. But implementing this model would require significant investment in broadband infrastructure, particularly in rural areas where access to high-speed internet was limited. Governments would need to step in to support these initiatives, ensuring that all seniors, regardless of their socioeconomic status, could benefit from the technological advancements being offered. As the discussion about the future of healthcare for seniors continued, it became clear that a multi-pronged approach would be necessary. Technology alone would not solve the problem. Policies would need to evolve to prioritize senior care and support the integration of AI into the healthcare system. Public-private partnerships would be essential in creating a sustainable, efficient, and equitable healthcare infrastructure for aging populations. One of the most significant policy proposals came from the U.S. Senate, where lawmakers began to discuss the implementation of a nationwide senior care program. This program would combine elements of technology, healthcare, and social services to create a comprehensive support system for seniors. It would include everything from subsidized AI-driven healthcare services to social programs aimed at reducing isolation and encouraging community engagement. But even as policymakers began to explore these options, the reality was that time was running out. The first wave of baby boomers was already entering their 80s, and the clock was ticking to implement policies that could address the needs of the next generation of seniors. If the world did not act quickly, the consequences could be dire, not only for the seniors who would struggle to access care but for entire economies that would face the financial burden of an overwhelmed healthcare system. The aging revolution was no longer just a future possibility. It had arrived, and the world had no choice but to adapt. With the combined forces of technology, AI, and innovative healthcare policies, a new paradigm for aging was beginning to take shape. But would it be enough? Would the world be able to support its aging population while preserving the dignity, health, and well-being of its elderly citizens? The answer was more complex than anyone had anticipated, but it was clear that the future would require new ways of thinking, new collaborations, and a new understanding of what it meant to grow old in the 21st century. The early signs of change were already visible. Across the globe, governments were reimagining senior care, leveraging the power of artificial intelligence to transform healthcare services. AI-driven healthcare systems were becoming an essential part of senior living, providing personalized wellness plans, real-time health tracking, and even virtual consultations with healthcare professionals. Seniors who once struggled with isolation and limited access to medical care were now able to interact with AI-powered companions, attend virtual therapy sessions, and receive personalized health advice, all from the comfort of their homes. In cities like San Francisco, Tokyo, and Berlin, AI-driven senior living communities were becoming more common. These smart communities were designed to optimize both physical and emotional health by integrating AI technologies into every aspect of daily life. In these communities, seniors could receive timely reminders to take their medications, receive alerts when their vitals indicated a potential issue, and even engage in virtual fitness classes designed specifically for older adults. The goal was to create environments where seniors could maintain their independence and autonomy for as long as possible while receiving the support they needed. But the transformation wasn't just happening in the realm of technology. There was also a shift in how society viewed aging. Aging, once seen as something to be feared or avoided, was now increasingly being seen as a phase of life to be embraced. The conversation had moved beyond just the logistics of healthcare and entered the realm of personal fulfillment and quality of life. What did it mean to live a good life as an older adult? How could people age in a way that was meaningful and fulfilling? Musk and other innovators had always believed that technology could unlock this new understanding of aging. In his speeches, Musk often referred to the importance of maintaining cognitive health as one aged, emphasizing that AI and technology could help extend the years of mental sharpness and emotional vitality that seniors experienced. He pointed to technologies like brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, and neurostimulation devices as key components in enhancing the mental health of older adults. Yet even as the technological advancements promised a brighter future, there were still questions that lingered. Would these innovations truly make a difference for the average person, or would they be reserved for the wealthy few? In many ways, the challenge of providing equitable healthcare was even more pressing than the technology itself. While AI and other technologies had the potential to revolutionize senior care, access to these resources was still a significant barrier for many people, particularly those in lower-income communities. The idea of a universal aging care system became a central topic in policy debates. Would it be possible to create a system where advanced technologies, like AI-driven health monitoring and virtual healthcare consultations, could be available to all seniors, regardless of their financial status? Could governments and private companies work together to subsidize these services for people who might otherwise be unable to afford them? The answer to these questions would require the involvement of not just the tech industry but also policymakers, healthcare providers, and social services. At the same time, the world was beginning to recognize the importance of social connections in aging. Loneliness and isolation were increasingly being identified as critical health risks for seniors. Studies had shown that isolation could have devastating effects on both physical and mental health, leading to higher rates of depression, cognitive decline, and even early death. AI and technology, for all their benefits, could never replace the human connection that was so vital to a fulfilling life. In response to this, many new initiatives were being launched to address the social aspects of aging. Community-building programs, designed to foster social interaction and peer support, were gaining popularity. These programs encouraged seniors to engage in social activities, form friendships, and contribute to their communities, either through volunteering or by sharing their experiences with younger generations. Social media platforms, designed specifically for older adults, were also becoming more common, providing a space for seniors to connect with one another and share their stories. Perhaps one of the most revolutionary changes was the growing recognition that aging didn't have to be a solitary journey. In many cultures, aging had always been seen as a communal experience, with multiple generations living and caring for one another. As the world became more interconnected, there was a renewed emphasis on building multi-generational communities where young and old could live together, share experiences, and provide mutual support. As Musk's vision for an AI-driven future for seniors began to materialize, he also acknowledged the need for human touch and the irreplaceable role of caregivers in this new world. Technology should empower people to live independently, but it should never replace the bonds we share with one another, Musk said during a keynote speech at a global healthcare summit. The future of aging will be a partnership between human compassion and the best of what technology has to offer. For many, this represented a hopeful future. A world where seniors could live with dignity, independence, and joy. A world where technology wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace, making life easier and more fulfilling for everyone. The vision for the future was becoming clearer. AI would enhance, not replace, human connection. Healthcare systems would evolve to prioritize both physical and emotional well-being, blending technology and human care in a way that maximized benefits for all. And perhaps most importantly, the world was beginning to understand that aging wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. As people lived longer lives, the focus shifted from merely extending life expectancy to enhancing life quality at every age. But the road ahead was not without its challenges. There would be setbacks, frustrations, and hard questions to answer. The world was entering uncharted territory, and there was no guarantee that every senior would have access to the care and technology they needed. But the seeds had been planted. The global conversation about aging had shifted, and there was a growing consensus that aging was not a burden to be endured, but an opportunity to be celebrated. As we closed this chapter, one thing was clear: the future of aging was being rewritten. And with the combined efforts of individuals, communities, companies, and governments, the story of aging would continue to evolve, more vibrant, more inclusive, and more hopeful than ever before. The journey had just begun. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?